And good evening, everyone. And this is the Rooftop Sports. And here we are again for some more Mariners baseball. And the Mariners are coming off of a victory against the Angels last night. And it was a nice victory, but some unnecessary tensions happened throughout that game. And I could just go on and on, including George Kirby with a bad start, J.P. Crawford with a foolish swing at the dirt. But Mariners came away with a victory because a win is a win, and they're going to need a lot more of those, especially with Houston absolutely just catching fire against those Kansas City Royals. But, Steve, how are you doing today?
Oh, man, I'm excellent, man. I'm always excellent. There's never a bad day. Outside of, this is my favorite time of year, right? Because, of course, this is the stretch drive when it comes to the Seattle Mariners, but it's also obviously the start of the English Premier League. So, for me, sports right now is cooking, right? And of course, we have my Washington State Cougs that are kicking off this right now. There's in the scope of the sporting year, there are two fantastic days, and that's opening day of Major League Baseball. It's always a great day, and then there's this little hub right here, right at the Labor Day weekend, where everything sports just globally comes together, and it's such a beautiful time. But you were mentioning last night's Mariners game, and I'll tell you what, I absolutely this is something that I've been clamoring for since the start of the regular season, for the Mariners just to come out early, put pressure, and at least give their pitcher, at least give their starter for the night, excuse me, an opportunity to breathe. And they did. And they did it in a very big way. Last night, I think they put 5 in the first. Julio ends up coming out with a 2-run shot last night, and so this is exactly what we've been asking for this offense. And they took advantage of a weak starting pitcher. They did not allow a pitcher with a 4+ ERA. They didn't make him look good. As a matter of fact, they made him look foolish, and that's perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's never seems that there is a not tense time for those starters, since they always have to play absolutely perfect baseball. But unfortunately, Mariners have to do it themselves. And the other thing that got me yesterday was J.P. Crawford and that swing and a miss at the dirt. I don't know if you saw that, but when I saw that, I was like, how could you swing at that? Yes, easier said than done. It was a 90. I know it's 90-something mile-an-hour pitches, but it was clearly headed towards the dirt. And at the professional level, you would think that, I don't know what he had, some kind of a brain fart, or does he seem checked out? Because there's possibility that he does look a bit checked out.
No, we're talking about a guy who has had 2 stints on the IL this year, right? And so when you're not playing consistent baseball, your timing and your pitch recognition is going to be off, right? I didn't like the fact that, he jumped right off the DL and into the leadoff spot. That was a little much for me. There's an easier way to do that, and giving them a soft landing. I know on Twitter, a lot of Mariner fans were like, he should have just kind of batted ninth, and I probably would agree with that. Putting him in a low pressure situation so he can actually get his timing and his pitch recognition down. And then, after a week of getting those consistent at bats and just working on the things, and obviously if he's if things go well, then you can move him back up to the top of the lineup. But I just think right now for JP, he's coming back into a situation with a new manager, different expectations, and of course they're in a playoff chase, so he's trying to go up there and trying to make something happen. And so when that ball comes out of a pitcher's hands, before you start seeing the pitch arc into the dirt, because from the center field camera on TV, of course, that's what our reaction is going to be. It's going to be like, oh, what are you doing? But when you're sitting in the batter's box and you see that pitch coming out of the hand, it looks like that thing is going to be literally right down the middle of the plate. And of course, he sees it, he's anticipating it, and he wants to put a good swing, and then only realizes that ball's going to be in the dirt as he's coiling that bat and trying to swing. And that's, you're midway through the swing when you recognize that, that pitch is in the dirt. So, I do believe he'll be, let me say this. I hope That's the whole thing. As I hope that with more repetition at the plate, JP will be JP.
I do agree with you that, and I do like your points, and I know that at least you say it in a more objective way. I've had people on social media going, "Well, JP Crawford was injured. You can't say that about him." I'm like, okay. Well, anyways, JP Crawford, unfortunately, is going to.
You could say it.
Yeah. JP Crawford is unfortunately going to be the leadoff hitter again, which is why I want to go over that starting lineup. And it's a pretty bizarre starting lineup, if you ask me. I got JP Crawford is leading off, Julio number 2, Cal Raleigh number 3, Rosarena at left field,
4.
Justin Turner playing again because Luke Raley is not going to be hitting against lefties. I guess he won't play against lefties. And then strangely enough, Luis Urias is back, and I did think that was a pretty bizarre call up. Then Dylan Moore, Mitch Garver, and Victor Robles. So any thoughts on that lineup? Or would you like the lineup, or would you do anything differently with that lineup?
Here, you know what? I actually kind of think this might be somewhat genius of bringing Luis Urias back up at this point, because right now, especially against a left-hander, but when you look at the fact that Josh Rojas, outside of that clip in May, where he was lighting the world on fire for those couple weeks in May, largely he's been just like Dylan Moore, just like Dom Canzone, basically a black hole. Guys who, he's the type of guy who you can't play every day, but this is an opportunity for Luis Urias to make right against a lefty, but also potentially to finish out what has been pretty much a dismal season. I didn't think he played all that bad down in Tacoma. I thought he was actually fairly decent. So it's a good opportunity. Rosters expand tomorrow. So who knows? Maybe we'll see somebody else. But I actually kind of like this idea of Urias at third. The only thing I didn't like was that's followed up by Dylan Moore. Let me rephrase that. It's followed up by Dylan Moore. I don't like the idea of Urias and Moore. I'd rather have Urias, Garver, Robles, then Moore batting ninth. But I mean, outside of that, it kind of just looks like your typical Mariners lineup.
I guess so. Christian says, how we're doing. Yes, flick of the switch. About to give me more jokes. Kevin Kirby, how are you doing tonight? By the way, Kansas City going to lose? Yep. Not going to help. Except maybe the wild card, but we don't want to. But we want the division more than the wild card.
Well, actually, to be honest with you, we just want the playoffs. So, wild card, division. Of course, you would like the division because you get to play at home as a division winner. But does anybody really care if the Mariners grab a wild card? They're in the playoffs. So, I think as long as that happens, I think we're going to be just fine. But
first pitch. And that is a strike to JP, and we are underway here at Angel Stadium. Crawford is now below 200, and now here is the pitch by Anderson, and that is a fly ball to left field, and that is going to be caught by the left fielder, and we've got one down already for the Mariners.
Of course you do, because you want the Mariners to make good on the fact that they blew a 10-game division lead, and you want to see them grab that division banner. But that being said, it's just about getting in.
You know what Jay Buhner once said? No way, we're going for the division, not the wild card in 95.
You want to hang that banner up there. Yeah, I used to watch that video quite a bit. The refuse to lose.
The My Oh My.
Yeah, the My Oh My, the Mariner 95 video. Yeah.
I grew up with You Gotta Love These Guys 96.
I like the, in the beginning of that video, they were talking about the bet between Luke Piniella and Junior.
With the cow.
With the steak dinner, and then Junior put a cow in his office.
And then 96, he put in the rack of lamb.
That's funny.
The pitch to Julio, and he has ball 2 going for him.
Yeah,
Julio last night hit a home run.
Ooh, Julio.
Now the 2-0. Swing and a miss, strike one. He got him on a changeup.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, Flick, what the fascination of him
2-1 pitch
is the Mariners.
Now here's a line drive, and that's going to drop in for a base hit, and Julio Rodriguez gets on base with a single, and finish what you got on flick of the switch.
Yeah. Who else is going to lead off?
Victor Robles.
Right, and when he led off, how was he? He was he wasn't exactly all ripping it up as the leadoff guy either. So, I mean, that's the problem with this lineup is they actually don't have a true leadoff.
Let's take a look and let's check.
Julio's kind of hot right now.
He's a 242 hitter, and as a ninth hitter, he's a 412, so that's why. And now the pitch to Cal, and that is outside for a ball. Just out of curiosity, would you stay at Mariners game if they were losing 12-0 in the sixth inning? Of course. I'll stay.
No.
You wouldn't.
No, I wouldn't.
And look at that. The Astros just won on a Kikuchi dominance, and now it's a swing and a miss, strike one. So no question, Mariners have to win today just to unfortunately break even. If they lose, they will be 5 games back. It'll be basically starting over again after a whole week of baseball with Dan Wilson.
My question to you is, what's the incentive of staying at a game where the Mariners are losing 12-0? Because they're not, like, even if they might have come back, they're not erasing a 12-run deficit, right? At most, maybe 6.
For the live shows, I'm staying. If it's live shows, I'm staying.
Sure. Well, I guess for content, yeah, you're probably right. But I mean, the last thing I want to do is get stuck in traffic after just experiencing an ass kicking of that magnitude.
Pitch to Cal, up high for a ball, 2-2. Kevin Kirby, why didn't the Mariners get Ben Gamble? Damn, that sucks. At least Minnesota and Boston lost, so there is some kind of an opportunity to pick up on the wild card at least.
Yeah. Any opportunity to get in. That's it.
Because last year proved that you don't have to be a division winner to be a World Series contender. Baseball has that much parity.
Correct. And we also know that the Mariners can win on the road in the playoffs. They did it a couple years ago.
2-2.
Against
swing and a miss, team. Strike 3. Down goes Cal Raleigh. We got 2 down. Up next is Randy Arozarena.
Randy. I used to hate going to baseball games with my dad when I was a kid because he would always want to leave at the 7th inning. Like after the bottom of the 7th inning, he would want to go. And, so we used to leave like in a lot of ties because he wanted to beat traffic out of the Kingdom. And it used to piss me off.
Now here's Arozarena, and he watches it for a strike. This might sound bad, but I'm so iffy on resigning Cal.
Yeah. You know what? I actually, if the Mariners decided to trade Cal this offseason, I'd be all right with it.
0-1, and that is a foul ball. I guess that's why they're holding on to Harry Ford.
You're talking about a catcher who's very good defensively, and he might hit 25 to 30 bombs, but he's going to be doing it while hitting 205, 210.
Basically a glorified Mike Zunino.
That's exactly right. And we traded Mike Zunino because he couldn't do anything except hit the occasional home run. And I understand that Dumper is a fan favorite, but that being said, it's like, would you rather have the gentleman from the Orioles, Adley Rutschman, or would you rather have Cal Raleigh? And it's like, well, I don't know. Probably Rutschman.
I assume that you probably come from Bremerton. Probably. And here is a Rose. Oh, no, it's a throw to first. Any chance Edgar could help Cal Raleigh in the offseason? I mean, he could help anyone at this point.
I would assume that Cal Raleigh is going to vacation just like every other Mariner on this roster, with the exception of 2, because they're going to be at Driveline.
Out of desperation, just like Ty France, and it didn't work out, unfortunately. And J.P. Crawford just had a lucky season.
I would assume that JP will probably be back at Driveline again this offseason.
He's going to have to, because look at his competition that is behind him right now, right on his tail. 1-2. And there's a ground ball right to the shortstop, throw to second in time, and that's going to retire the side. We go to top of the second, or top of the bottom of the first. It is 0-0.
Like, make no mistake, every position should be up for grabs for upgrading, right? Like, I don't care if you're a fan favorite, right? That's like, you know what, that's fine because it sells tickets. But the reality is, like, this team needs upgrades in such a bad way. And you know what? I like JP, I do, but I can probably name off 5 shortstops around the league that are far and away better than JP, and maybe name off 5 more that might be available for the Mariners.
Yeah, JP, he has aside. I mean, let's like look at his numbers, because it's not like they're not that impressive. Like, I really do think JP got the popular name just because of his backhanded play in 2019. That's what got him the fame in Seattle. 2019, in 93 games, 7 home runs, batted .226 with a .313 OBP. 2020, in 53 games, 2 home runs, .255. 2021 was a better season. He was actually a borderline all-star at one point. Yeah. 273 with a .338. Then 22, he just took a dip, batted .243 and a .339. But his strikeouts and walks weren't so bad between each other. 23 was a semi-breakout year, 35 doubles, 94 walks, but 125 strikeouts. But it was still actually a pretty good season. He had a career high in OBP, and then 24 just went. Now he's even worse. This is his career low.
Yeah, my biggest issue is, like, you can, like, shortstop is one of those weird hybrid positions where on some level for some teams they desire a little bit more power out of their shortstop, just an all-around game at the plate. But traditionally it's always been that defensive first position, right? Guys like Ozzie Smith and some of those guys. But that being said, you can
Brendan Ryan.
You can carry a light hitting shortstop as long as you have guys around the field that are, that are doing their job and being productive. But when you have a team like the Mariners that have struggled for 2 years now at the plate, it magnifies it.
And we got strike 1 on Taylor Ward so far. And here's the pitch by Wu. That's going to be outside for a ball. And Taylor Ward is 0 for 4 against the Brian Wu. And Kevin Kirby asked, what do you think of Jackson Holiday so far? If you have seen him play, I haven't necessarily as much. But
I have seen Jackson play. He's not bad, man. Right? Like, maybe Baltimore starting him this season at the big league club might have been a little too much for him, which is why they sent him down. But, I've seen him play in the minor leagues a handful of times, and that kid's real, man. He's the real deal.
And Michael Arroyo hit 2 home runs in 1 inning.
Good for
Michael Arroyo. 1-2. Maybe he could probably be a trade piece of the future.
Yeah.
Because I think Mariners are still toned in on either Cole Young or
he should have been a trade piece this summer. Cole
Young definitely should have.
Yeah.
Or at least Emerson. And the 2-2.
Well, in some regards, Emerson's our top prospect, right? So if you're going to trade, quote unquote, our top prospect, you're doing it to bring unbelievable impact back. But Jerry, he just doesn't want to trade
3-2
prospects.
And now here is a fly ball to center field, and Julio makes the catch, and that's going to be 1 down.
Yeah. Remember when we laughed at the deadline when the Astros traded for Yusei Kikuchi?
We did laugh at the deadline, and now we're probably eating our words.
Yeah, he's been pretty good for Houston. Yeah.
And it's not like those prospects were even like at the top caliber as the Mariners prospects anyway. So if they were in the Mariners list, they probably would have been in the mid-tier.
They were pretty good. Those were Houston's. I think Houston traded like their 5th and their 7th top prospect to get them. Like, it was really, at the time, it seemed like a gross overpay for Yusei Kikuchi, but
they usually know what they're doing.
Yeah.
If not, they know exactly what they're doing.
There's a reason why that team has been to 7 straight,
ALCS.
7 straight league championship series.
Popped up, and Robles is going to be there, and he makes the catch, and 2 down. Yeah, let's take a look at Kikuchi. Looking at Kikuchi's numbers is he's 2-0 with a 2.89. And yeah, your question?
Well, I'm just reading this comment from Byford to Hobbit, who says the potential Mariners 2025 lineup has Pete Alonso in it, Willie Adames, Alex Bregman, and Anthony Santander in it. And I'm just thinking to myself, do you believe what you just wrote?
No, I don't think that's going to happen. The pitch. And that is a ball.
You know, I will say this, that if the Mariners decide to stick with Jerry and they don't let him go at the end of the year.
Now here's a line drive, and Rosarena makes the catch. But no, about Jerry, I hope they don't stick with him. Like, I
just think that that if he does stick around, that he's going to be on the hottest of hot seats. And I would like to, I actually predict that if he's around and he's working this lineup, you're going to see fireworks this offseason because he has to, right? Like, he can't continue this whatever the hell he's been doing the last two off seasons, progressively getting this team worse, right? Like, he has to bring in so much impact, you know, in order just to get fans back on his side, or at the very least showing his boss that he knows what he's doing. You know, so I do believe you'll see fireworks, but again, I just don't want to see him touch this roster anymore.
No, I mean, look what he already kind of backstabbed his own friend. And here's the thing: I wanted Scott Service fired, but it was like, if he's going to do that to his own friend Scott Service, imagine what he would do to other people. We got other comments. Replace Alonso with Vlad. I mean, they'll be trading him. If they trade for him, it'd be on a contract year. You would keep Jerry. Let him spend. I don't know. Jerry's had his chances. And I think it's time to just move on from him. Even if they make a deep playoff run, I still don't. I mean, if they do make a deep playoff run, that will keep him for at least one more year, or even let him give him an extension. But
yeah, if the Mariners somehow make a deep playoff run, that would give Mariner management an excuse to keep him around, right?
Just like think about Bill Bavasi. His one lucky 88 win season gave him another year.
And the reality is, like, when you look at the totality of these last two seasons, and you saw this lineup get progressively worse, but yet Jerry was pipping it this offseason, talking about how it was probably his best lineup in his Mariners tenure, only for it to just spectacularly fall apart.
His best lineups were in 16 and 17.
Oh, yeah, and 18 probably.
The pitch. 18 was more transitional. And that's going to be a 2-0 count on Justin Turner.
I like the 19 lineup, though. That was a pretty good. That was a
fun lineup. The 2-0. Yeah. That was a strike. Especially the 13 and 2 Mariners were the most fun Mariners.
Yeah, they didn't have any pitching, man.
Yeah, pitching was dead. I mean, Felix was pretty much, his arm was dead. The 2-1. And now here's a fly ball to deep left field. That is still carrying. Is it still going? And that is gone. A home run for Justin Turner. Woo! And the Mariners take a 1-0 lead off a home run by the Justin Turner. And that's exactly the play that the Mariners traded for.
Yeah. JT gets a fastball in, built high. And of course, even at 39, you give anybody a fastball literally right down the pipe. Just a little inside, he's going to crush it. And that's look at JT.
That was absolutely just crushed.
JT's got the trident there in the dugout.
As he does. And now they have a 1-0 lead. And whoever got that ball, who knows? And now here is Luis Urias. And that is a strike. That was right at the knees, as the umpire would think. 4th career home run against Tyler Anderson. 2nd home run with the Mariners with Justin Turner.
Let's go.
Now here is Urias again. And that is a strike again. And he's gotten 2 questionable calls going against him. Welcome back to the major leagues, Luis Urias.
Luis, come on now. You're wearing Tino's number. You You can't disrespect Tino like that. Come on.
Yeah, why would they do that? And now the pitch and a swing and a miss, and he disrespected Tino in a very much way. And that is strike 3. And Kevin Kirby says, do you guys like Hollander bring any value, or should you have one GM or president? I don't like Hollander. He just doesn't show me anything to the table.
Well, normally how this usually goes is the president of baseball ops is usually on the business side, and the GM is usually the guy that's on the personnel side, right? But in this case, Justin Hollander is just a glorified seat filler. He's a complete yes man, and we know who builds this team.
Jerry Dipoto.
That's exactly right. So, yeah, like Justin Hollander brings zero value to this franchise. He's
now the 1-0 pitch.
He's just collecting a check.
I mean, I still remember, I know I said this to you already and the entire show, but when Justin Hollander in the 2022 post-press conference, as we're waiting for a pitch by Tyler Anderson to Dylan Moore, as we're looking at the 2-0 and the pitch, and a swing and a miss, strike 1. I remember they were actually asking Justin Hollander a question, not Jerry Dipoto. And then immediately Justin Hollander just looked at Jerry, and Jerry's like, dude, that's your question. You got to answer that.
Yep.
The 2-1 and the ground ball right to third base. Rendon throw to first in time, and that's going to be 2 down. Yeah,
they just showed the split screen from June 18th when we were 10 games up to where we are now. And Houston has just 41 and winning 41 games since that point.
Everyone knew that would happen, but not in that kind of way, though.
I just didn't think we would. I didn't think we would collapse so epically.
And the pitch to Mitch Garver,
let's go, Mitchell.
That is a strike. Mariners nice win today. They'll be 3.5 games back from the division, and Minnesota has really fallen apart. 3-7, Kansas City 4-6. So the wild card leaders aren't exactly lighting the world on fire. And now that's a foul ball by Mitch Garver, already an 0-2 count.
Yeah, Pete had full control, but John was actually a bona fide GM in the NFL. But he couldn't make any moves without obviously Pete's approval. But those guys worked pretty well together.
And the 0-2 pitch. And that is low for a ball. Only problem with Snyder is, notice after the Super Bowl runs, Snyder lost all of his best scouts and best front office assistants that helped build the team along with him, and now they moved on to other jobs.
Well, but that being said, though, I mean, John Schneider lasted past Pete.
1-2.
So they believe in him enough to keep him around.
2-2. I mean, I don't think John Snyder has really done anything to lose his job, really. I mean, look what he did to the Broncos. Like, they actually did fleece the Broncos, no matter what you say about that trade.
Well, I mean,
the 2-2. And now here is a fly ball to center field. Not really going to center field. Actually, it is. Well, the second baseman makes the catch, and that is going to retire the side. But Justin Turner hits a home run, and the Mariners lead it 1-0. And I got to go to the bathroom. And say your John Schneider things.
Oh, I was gonna say, name me a player of that trade came back from the Denver Broncos that showed up and showed out for the Seahawks. Really, to me, it was an equal trade. We didn't really get a lot of impact from the Broncos, and of course, you know what happened to Russell. But it is what it is, man. Flick of the switch. 4 games out if they win tonight. Yeah, so 100%. The Mariners have an incentive to win, but I would keep Jerry and let him spend and see how we do with new and better people if we can get rid of them. No, I think we've seen enough of Jerry. He's been here for 9 years, 1 playoff appearance in 9 years. Here's the thing about professional sports that I think that has to be understood. It's a results-driven business. As ingrained as Jerry is in the Mariners front office, at the end of the day, it's a results-driven business. And if the results aren't there, then you have to bring in somebody else who can deliver those results. And remember that the Mariners fired Scott Service because the results weren't there. And I didn't think that as long as Jerry was there, I didn't think that Scott would ever be fired, but here we are. But that being said, Jerry has had many bites at the apple of this, and he's only produced one playoff appearance while progressively taking that playoff team in 2022 and making it worse. There's been no rapid upward movement when it comes to hitting prospects. As a matter of fact, our biggest player, supposedly, who was rushed as well too, Julio Rodriguez, has progressively gotten worse.
And we got a base hit to left field at the corner by Anthony Rendon. He's going to second base, and Randy Arozarena loses the ball. And luckily, Rendon is lazy. He didn't want to go to third base, and he should have. Anyone else would have gone to third base on that.
Yeah, it's just time for him to go, man.
What, Rendon or Arozarena or both?
Oh, Jerry Dipoto.
Oh yeah, of course.
And Randy might be gone this offseason too. You just never know. This ain't a Mariners question, but what do you think about NIL deals in college sports? I like them.
Is that the college players getting paid?
The only thing I don't like about it is because of the transfer portal, it's seen players leave smaller programs to go to bigger programs specifically for the money. And all it does is hurt the smaller program. My Washington State Cougs have been, victim of NIL deals. Cam Ward, Jaden DeLora. It is what it is, right? I like the idea of the transfer portal. I think players should have the same movement as coaches. But that being said, all it does is mean that the rich get richer in college sports.
As if it already keeps happening. Look at UW. They are supposedly going to get richer. And we're looking at the 1-1 in the pitch. And that is outside for a ball.
I can't wait till the move to the Big Ten really just bites them in the you-know-what.
No, it's going to. It is going to, and I want it to. I went to UW, and I 98% hated the experience of being a Husky.
I'll tell you what. They're after 5 years of being doormats in the Big Ten, they're going to regret this decision.
They're not going to be doormats. They're going to be more than doormats. They're going to be punching bags.
The interesting thing though is like their pathway to a national championship was in the Pac-12. That road it was in the Pac-12. And
swinging a miss, strike three.
Because they were scared about the Apple deal. And the president of the University of Washington, she is a snake, telling everybody that it was a great deal. But behind the scenes she was negotiating with the Big Ten behind the scenes. All I'll say this is like they're going to be a doormat in the Big Ten because they're not getting through Michigan. They're not getting through Ohio State, Penn State, not even Michigan State, not Wisconsin, not even USC or Oregon. So how are they going to make that work?
I do think that greed had a part in it.
Oh, they're getting $40 million a year guaranteed just off the TV deal. But I'll say this, right? Because I do believe that the Pac-12 is going to survive in 2 years. Like Washington State and Oregon State are playing Mountain
And here's
West
a ground
schedule.
ball and nice fielded by Crawford. Throw to first. And that is in time. Great defense by J.P. Crawford. And I'm giving credit where credit is due. Rendon moves to third base, but J.P. Crawford did prevent a run.
And they because of the lawsuit, they got to keep all the royalty money from bowl games and tournaments. I have a feeling that the Pac-12 is going to end up being the four top teams from the Mountain West Conference. So you're talking San Diego State, Fresno State, Boise State, and UNLV because of the Las Vegas market. And I do believe there's going to be 2 Texas teams, SMU and Houston, with Washington State and Oregon State. And I actually predict that Cal and Stanford are going to come back from the ACC because there's a good chance that the ACC folds. And then in 5 years, Washington and Oregon are going to come crawling back to the Pac-12.
I want them to.
Yeah.
And the thing that bothered me, and I didn't realize how much I didn't really have good relationships with Huskies, but the one thing they complained about, and it drove me nuts, was they're like, oh, East Coast bias throughout the whole season. If anything, they had
Yeah.
They had bias going for them. They should have not been a top 4 team. I didn't think they were. I mean, they played a pretty down Pac-12 conference, with the exception of Oregon in the pitch. And that is popped up. And Justin Turner should be there. He makes the catch, and the Mariners get out of that inning after the lazy Rendon double, followed up with a lazy defense by Randy Arozarena. We go to top of the third, still 1-0. But yeah, my time at UW wasn't great. I did meet 2 of my best friends there, so I got something out of it. But aside from that, like the way they run their thing, the way that fans treat the Cougar fans, especially when they visit Apple Cup, because also some of my best friends are also from the Wazoo.
Go Cougs.
I got a bad taste in that mouth. And I actually offered to go to those games with them and protect them. Like, I was going to say, hey, I'll go to a game with you and protect you. He wouldn't let me just because I was wearing a Huskies gear.
Two of my oldest sons went to the University of Washington, and I said that during their time on campus, I would never talk shit about the Huskies, and that I've been held true. That being said, though, when they were playing in the national championship game, I was actively rooting for Michigan.
Me too. Even if it was Jim Harbaugh. Even though I do like Jim Harbaugh.
I love Jim Harbaugh. I think he's one of the greatest coaches, ever. But I'll say this, though. What really pissed me off about Washington and Oregon going to the Big Ten was they screwed over their own student athletes. And this isn't just football, but this is also basketball, baseball, softball, track and field, crew, gymnastics, name the sport. So during the season, you're like, these are still students, right? And so now all of a sudden there's a 7:00 tip off in New Jersey for the Huskies going on the road to play Rutgers in a basketball game. And the next day at noon, they have to be in the classroom for their final. So they have to wrap up the post game at 10, jump on a flight, take a 6-hour flight back to Seattle, get in at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and then sleep for 3 hours and then be in school the next morning. You know what I mean? It's,
insatiable greed by UW.
Like logistically, it made no sense for a Eugene, Oregon, and Seattle school to be playing in the Midwest. That's exactly right. It was insatiable greed. And really all they had to do was take the Apple deal because it still would have given them $25 to $30 million a season. It's not Big Ten money, but you know what, though? It's still very good money. Not only that, but sports is going streaming anyway. So it is what it is. But I just thought that they lacked tremendous foresight. And they always say, right, the saying is the grass is always greener. But you know what? Sometimes it's not.
Sometimes it's more brown. And now here is the pitch to Crawford, and that is a ball. And we did miss the fact that Robles hit a ground ball to the lazy Rendon, and now there's one out. Crawford's 0 for 1 with a fly out.
Switch, you're wrong. You're wrong about WSU if they were a bigger program. I mean, Spokane is like the 29th largest market in the United States. Yeah, no, you're right. It's not greed. It is business to some extent. But that being said, Washington State would have stayed in the Pac-12. If the Big Ten came calling, Washington State would have stayed in the would have stayed in the Pac-12.
And we're looking at a 2-0. JP,
yes, it was Larry Scott's
3 of his 9 home runs against the Angels, and now the pitch, and that is inside, and that nearly got him, and that's gonna be a 3-0. I hate to say it, and I sound like a meanie, but maybe he should have took one for the team, considering. But he doesn't want to get injured again, so there's that.
There it is, JP.
The 3-0.
Yeah, that's just
that is a strike.
That comment just shows that you know nothing about Washington State. They would have stayed in the Pac-12 because
3-1.
Say what you will about WSU. They're loyal.
Ball forward, take your base, and JP Crawford gets on base with
Julio.
Ball. Let's go, Julio. Now Julio is up to the plate. As my feed has frozen for a moment.
Yeah. Well, Tyler Anderson's first pitch to Julio was way up and out of the zone for ball 1, and I think this would be a good situation for either Julio, but for JP to take off against Anderson because of his delivery, but also it might be also a very good opportunity for Julio to drop one down as well too. I know it seems a little weird to take the bat out of Julio's hand, but to also
foul ball.
To catch the defense.
They wouldn't leave because they wouldn't be competitive. But UW is not going to be competitive. They lost their coach. They lost most of their players.
Yeah, they lost. I think they lost 9 starters off of offense. I think they lost 15 altogether through draft.
Oh, they're going to get eaten up alive by Ohio State. The 1-0. Ohio State, it's going to be a laughing fest. And I want it to happen. Like, I want UW to fail.
You know what's funny is
everything about the school, but I don't really like college anyway.
I think this year the Huskies are in Lansing this year. I might actually go check that out and take the 45-minute drive down to Lansing to watch Michigan State stomp all over Washington. But no, I just don't see it. Like, even if they build up, I still they're never ever going to win a division title in the Big Ten.
No, it's not going to happen. And but they're like, but we'll get better recruits. I'm like, sure.
We'll see.
3-1.
Just because you're in the I'll say this. Here's what I will say about the Huskies have always been very good recruiters. So I don't doubt that they're going to be able to recruit well, but Michigan recruits coast to coast. Ohio State has the pick of whoever wants to come there.
And they throw it first.
So it's like
not in time.
At
I
best,
wonder how UW did today. I mean, they've had to win because they played a nobody college team.
At best, they'll be a mid-tier bowl team.
They're playing at 8:00. Did the Cougars win today?
That's a good question.
And now we're looking at the next pitch. And that's a foul ball. And Julio could have walked on that one. Yeah, I'm looking myself.
Yes, they did. They beat Portland State by a score of 70-30.
70-30.
70-30. Let's check.
Yeah, but they gave up 30 points to a no team.
Yeah, but they also scored 70. So
okay, the 3-2, and here's a ground ball, and that's gonna get through for a base hit. And now you got J.P. Crawford at second base and Julio at first. And Julio loves to play against the Angels. He's been feasting on them. One thing I always do. Okay, who's your favorite Cougars quarterback? Because mine's either Leaf or Bledsoe.
Oh yeah, here's the thing, man. Drew was brilliant. You can't take anything away from what Drew's career, but Ryan took what Drew did and doubled it.
Yeah, he took them to the Rose Bowl. For
as good as Drew was, Drew was only able to get him to a Copper Bowl appearance, and then Ryan almost beat him at UW his sophomore year, but he got him or his freshman year, and then it was he got him again, man, as a junior.
And here's a fly ball foul, and that was a beautiful hit by Cal Raleigh. I wonder how many foul ball prevents the Mariners have when preventing home runs. It's got to be a lot. Can't blame T-Mobile Park. I wonder how many foul ball home runs the Mariners have this season. They got to be leading the league in that. It feels that way, but I know when we check it, it's not going to seem as bad as we hope to think. And Cal Raleigh chased another bad one because he thought that was his home run pitch.
I hate to break it to you, Flick. I never root for the Huskies,
Me neither.
Even when they're playing the Cougs.
But I did follow the Huskies when Kelsey Plum was a Husky, though. And she was really fun to watch.
Yeah, she was also kind of hot, too.
She is. And she singled at 0-2. And that is 1 and 2.
I got that rent money.
And you got a podcast of 25 subscribers and counting.
I'm telling you, man, that soccer podcast is taking off, man. That was a good idea.
1-2. Now here's a ground ball, probably a double play ball. Throw to second, throw to first, and not in time, man. J.P. Crawford will advance to third base because of that, and that's the second time Julio's been forced out.
I'll tell you what, though, but it was a nice hustle down the first base line to avoid the double play. So now the Mariners with 2 outs have runners on the corners. And this is what we saw yesterday was they actually got the clutch 2-out hits, man.
And I think Dan Wilson and Edgar Martinez have paid huge dividends for this team. I mean, the thing is, it's like Scott Service did set a pretty low standard, so it can't be that hard to turn the ship around with the talent on this team anyway. But hey, Dan Wilson has executed.
rooting for Michigan against any state team is just wrong. Well, so here's the thing, right? The rivalry between Washington State and Washington is very real for me. And I don't cross party lines, man. It just is what it is, man. I'm a Coug and I will always be a Coug. And I just never root for Washington now because they broke up the Pac-12.
That's the most Husky thing they ever did.
Fuck them.
They destroyed the traditions.
One of my really good friends who has been a Husky fan since 1976, man, Commando Dave, man. Dave is a great guy. Dude, he's not rooting for the Huskies.
Because of that.
Because of it, man. Because we're all traditionalists, man. We're all Pac-10, Pac-12 traditionalists.
Oh, Flick. Okay, but don't you think the Huskies could have stopped it? They could have stopped the whole thing because they had the golden hand.
See, here's the thing: USC and UCLA,
a pitch, and
took off strike too. A year before Washington and Oregon, right? And it was when Washington's decision, backdoor dealing with the Big Ten and taking Oregon, was the reason why Colorado jumped, which is the reason why the Arizona schools jumped, right? So the reality of the situation is it could have been the Pac-10 and they still could have got that Apple TV deal. But once Washington made that decision and word spread around the conference, everyone else jumped because of it. First opportunity, they took it. Washington was the linchpin. So it is what it is, man. I understand you're a Husky fan.
3-2.
I know you're insecure about
a swing and a miss, strike three, and down goes Rosarena. And that's going to retire the side and nothing doing with a runner in first and third. Brian Wu is going to have to do big things. I did cover that semifinals and the finals game between Huskies and Texas and Huskies and Michigan. That was a lot of fun. And the most fun part of it was it was fun to actually be objective because most of the time I'm Homer for the Mariners, Homer for the Seahawks. But then this time I was just doing it in both perspectives. That was fun.
When it was obvious that the Huskies were not going to win the national championship, right? This was like midway, for me, it was midway through the second quarter because I think Michigan had came down. I think the Huskies scored, Michigan came right back and responded. And for me, it was like, okay, cool. Washington's not going to win this game. And so the entire second half, I was just the smile on my face because there was nothing Washington could do offensively to get back.
There was nothing they could have done. And
I was like,
I was telling all the Huskies that they made it first, the ranking system rigged for them. And two, they played in a down Pac-12 conference. I know the conference is usually competitive, but it was a down conference.
Oh, 100%.
Everyone was off their game. Except 100%. The Ducks, of course, because he had Bo Nix, and I do have high hopes for Bo Nix, and I am hoping for his success.
But that being said, Washington doesn't have a quarterback. They lost Rome Odunze to the draft as well too. So
and Penix, of course, was already he was a fifth-year guy, so he had to go.
Yeah, so it is what it is, man. I'm not expecting much from the University of Washington this season, but then again, I never expect much from the Huskies anyway, even when they're good. It is what it is.
Yep. So you better keep dwelling on that 91 Rose Bowl championship.
I was hoping that they would. I was hoping Washington State would bow out of the Apple Cup for a couple of years, so we can forge our own trail and we can get out of the whole big brother, little brother shadow. It's what Texas A&M did with Texas when they jumped to the SEC first, right? They just wanted to blaze their own trail for a while. And get out of that shadow. But, money.
And here is Matt Piasis.
Oh. Julio.
And you spoiled it, didn't you? Now here's the pitch. And now here is a fly ball to deep left center field. And Julio is there. And he makes the catch. A nice leaping catch for Julio Rodriguez. And that's going to be one down.
It's not sour grapes, Flick. You know what it is? It's fact, right? Washington broke up the Pac-12. Fact. And it is what it is.
And I'm an ex-Husky.
But you know what? To me, the Apple Cup, whatever. doesn't mean anything anymore because now it's just going to be a game that has no consequence on the conference. I'm actually looking forward to Washington State, Boise State. I think that's going to be a new
Here's my
rivalry.
thing about Flick's statement. I was once a Husky, and if I reacted to that whole thing that happened, I would have been even more furious.
See, this is like the Husky arrogance coming out of him now, right? Because it's the only thing.
And now here's a fly ball belted to left center field, and that is gone. Joe Adell just hits a home run, and the Mariners have now suffered a tie, and Joe Adell continues to feast on the Mariners, and now it's a tie ball game.
Yeah. After today, I wonder how much Cougs miss Cam Ward. Yeah, dude. That
no, but seriously, if I was a Husky, I probably would have lost a lot of Husky friends because I would have said, man, Huskies got greedy. They're not thankful for what they're in. It's going to bite them in the butt. So, yeah, even if I was a Husky fan, I would have been against that move.
The only time that I actually ever respected the Huskies as a team was in the 91, 92 Huskies where, they split the national championship. Couldn't win it on their own, but they split it. But, when they had Mark Burdell and Billy Joe Hobart at quarterback and
ironically,
Mario Bailey, they were a very good team.
Cougars have actually developed more quarterbacks, I think, than the Huskies have. And let's see if we can name them all that went to the NFL. And Taylor Ward's up to the plate. And now the pitch.
Just because, by the way, Flick, I was going to say, Flick, just because I don't like the Huskies doesn't mean that I can't respect them. There have been seasons when they were very good.
And we're looking at the 1-1.
Very, very good.
The Chris Peterson era was fun. The pitch.
And by the way, Jake Locker is a hell of a dude, man. I was a big fan of Jake. He was a hell of a dude. I've had the pleasure of sitting down with Jake on multiple occasions. Even when he was in Tennessee, he was always just a cool dude.
Jake Locker, yeah.
Yeah.
I also liked watching Jake Browning.
Yeah, Jake Browning.
The 1-2. And that is going to be a 2-2 count.
The thing that I liked about Jake was that dude was he's one of those real ones where I remember talking to him when he made the decision to retire from the NFL. I mean, he had the shortest, like one of the shortest careers as a quarterback, man. And he was just like, dude, the money is not worth the hits that he was taking.
He took a lot of hits when he was in Tennessee.
Yeah.
If only Jake Locker, if he was on the team currently, would have been a little bit different.
Hey, by the way, Flick, I do happen to agree with you on that one. Yeah, the Huskies that year were dominant.
And the foul ball.
Huskies
they produced Chris Chandler, Warren Moon, Mark Brunell, Jake Locker, any other UW missing Jake Browning?
Billy Joe played in the league for a little bit.
3-2.
Same with the Heward brothers. They played in the NFL for a little bit.
Popped up, and Robles is there, and he makes the catch. Yeah, Brock Heward.
Yep. And
Damon Heward. I think both of them played backups to play Peyton Manning's quarterback in Colts.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of Cougar quarterbacks. I think Tim Rosenbaugh, Mark Rippon,
Ryan Leaf,
Drew Bledsoe, Ryan Leaf, even the throwing Samoan, what's his bucket?
Gardner Minshew, Nick Folk.
Gardner. Jason Gesser played in the league for a little bit. Luke Falk played a little bit in the league. Yeah. So
Nick Folk, Luke Falk. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we produce about the same par. Yeah. Yeah. The Cougs had some great teams in the late 90s. Actually, it was the early 2000s, but yeah.
We're looking at the 0-1 for Zach Neto. And now
the only
pitch.
Cougar.
Now here's a ground ball right to JP Crawford. Tossed over the first in time, and we are going into the top of the fourth inning. This game has been breezing along, but unfortunately, Joe Adell hit that game-tying home run.
I'm trying to think of that quarterback. In the last 30 years, 40 years, I think the only Cougar quarterback, let me go back real quick. I think it was
Kevin Kirby. I'm not opposed to that idea. Maybe we should embrace more of that intentional walking.
The only Cougar quarterback to win multiple Apple Cups in the last 40 years was Alex Brink. I think he won 3 and 4. Can we just start intentionally walking crappy Joe Adele? That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah, we're going to say, hey, Joe Adele, hello? You're walking?
Is it me you're looking for?
Rumor has it that we're walking you.
That we're walking you, yeah.
That home run? It's just water under the bridge. If you're going to hit the home run, you're going to let me down. It's just water under the bridge. And I know Flick is going to say I'm a horrible singer. I'm ready. I'm ready for him to say it. Say it, Flick. Let it out of your systems, man.
You know, I'll say this, man, Flick. I was disappointed too, and that was again another. I'm conflicted, right? On one side, I'm happy for him because Cam got the bag, got the NIL deal, but he had to leave Washington State in order to get it, and it's disappointing.
I mean, those kids are lucky enough just to get scholarships now.
Yeah, I'm actually happy that they're getting paid. I really do, because the NCAA was literally clocking free labor on their backs, and while universities were getting paid millions of dollars because of their feats on the field, the players were getting like a small stipend. They deserve to be paid, but that being said, it's just
stuff like man. That's the reason why you saw Chris Webber doing sketchy deals and Johnny Manziel.
Yeah.
No, you pretty much enabled that with all those restrictive rules. And Johnny now Chris Webber still, I don't even know if Chris Webber's still allowed back in Michigan. And that is a strike.
Ooh,
you spoiled, not again. Ooh. All right, as we're looking at the 1-1, and now here is the pitch. And now here's the fly ball to deep left field, and that is gone. A second home run for Justin Turner. And the Mariners now take a 2-1 lead, and Justin Turner is absolutely on fire.
Who was the last quarterback to get drafted? Probably Luke Falk. Probably. No, Gardner Minshew was the last
Gardner Minshew. Oh, Steve, your thoughts on the home run?
He gets another fastball literally belt high. It was the same pitch he hit out the last time. Again, it's funny that I'll give Anderson a little credit though. I mean, he's not afraid to go back to it, But
now
JT made him pay again.
Luis Urias, and that is up high for a ball. They're showing the home run again, and that was just smoked. You could tell that was gone.
I don't like the transfer portal because it gives athletes a way out. Like I liked it back in the day where if you were second on the depth chart and you went into summer camp and you battled for that starting job and came up just a little short, you still have an opportunity to start.
The pitch.
You still have
an opportunity. A ground ball right to third base. Rendon, throw to first in time.
But chances are you had to wait. You had to wait a year. But now it gives athletes an excuse not to battle. They just expect to be a starter, and when they don't, they're like, all right, whatever, I'm leaving. And I just it also stunts the development for quarterbacks, I believe, personally, because I think it's the battle. I think it's the battle that makes the quarterback better.
Dylan Moore is now up to the plate, and that is
a
1-0.
Let's go, Demo.
And here's the pitch. And that is a swing and a miss, strike one.
Demo is great in short spurts.
Yeah, he's not an everyday guy for a reason. The 1-1. And here's a liner, and that is actually going to be a base hit. And now he's going to be on first base with a single, and Dylan Moore is trying to continue this run.
Fastball at the top of the zone, and Demo just dunks it into left field. I love that. I love that at bat.
Huskies are playing in about 30 minutes. They'll be playing their inaugural game real soon.
Oh, dude, is there any manager in Major League Baseball who's more overhyped than Ron Washington?
Ron Cocaine Washington.
Oh yeah, dude, he loves that cocaine, boy.
Yeah, I like that cocaine.
Yeah.
No, he was really, really on cocaine 24/7, and probably still is. Michael Irvin. The way he talks is like, oh yeah, my Cowboys, they'll be okay, man.
Yeah. Well,
in the
that's
pitch.
just again. You know what's funny is, you know, when you have a roster like he had in Texas, it's kind of hard to screw that up. You know what I mean? Like it really was really hard to screw
Dallas,
that up. And then when, you know, when Ron was taking the Texas Rangers back in the early 2010s, you know, that being said, he was outcoached in
by Tony La Russa.
Yeah, in St. Louis, he was outcoached, man.
Yeah, Tony La Russa. It's sad that his legacy was kind. Do you think his legacy should be? Do you think it's tainted by the whole Chicago thing, or that was more of a Chicago wrongdoing?
No, but didn't he actually have some pretty good squads in Chicago? Like
he did. He made a run for the playoffs.
Yeah, it wasn't great at the end, but no. Oh, what's up,
Hey, William? How's it going? One of my beloved members of this channel.
Billy C. What's up, Billy C?
And we're looking at a 1-2 for Mitch Garver.
Yeah.
He does have a hard hit rate, but that's if he can make contact the pitch. And that is low for a ball, 2-2.
I'll tell you what, though, he had some nice swings last night, man.
Mitch Garver did get 2 hits, including a 2 RBI double.
Yeah. I like the fact that Dan Wilson's not afraid to go back to him back-to-back days against lefties.
And now we're looking at the 2-2, and now the runner goes in the pitch, and that is a foul ball again, and that's going to be caught, and that's going to be 2 outs.
2 outs. 2 outs. Yep.
Think about Dan Wilson. You're right. Like, it's Dan. Other than the fact that it's Dan freaking Wilson, like you can see adjustments that he has made versus what Scott Service wouldn't have done.
Well, it's the when it comes to players that are struggling, man, it's all about confidence, and you have to, you have to have that confidence and ability of a player to come through when you need him to. And one of the things, like during like the worst parts of the season, Scott was not doing that. Like he was hardly playing them, and it's hard to get out of it when you're not playing. And then when you're not playing, you're probably getting upset because you're not playing, and so it's like a side downward cycle. And it's nice to see that Dan Wilson has come to him and said, "You're my guy. You're my guy versus lefties."
And Tyler Anderson is trying to keep Dylan Moore in check because
they got him.
Oh
no! Oh, you'll see it right now.
All right, I will. And it looks like they pick him off, and the throw to second, and not in time because they weren't paying attention.
They weren't paying attention.
And the umpire got in the way, but either way, Drury was not paying attention at all.
Yeah, Shanuel, or they're essentially their rookie first baseman, throws it away. Yeah, I don't think the umpire can make the play at second base right there. He literally just threw it right into the umpire.
And I hope he's okay. I mean, I know a lot of people don't. Oh, that kind of hit him hard.
Yeah, it hit him right in the breadbasket, didn't it?
Speak of umpire, I have a debating question after this inning is over. And Victor Robles, by the way, is a 409 hitter with runners in scoring position in the pitch. And that's probably another reason why they did not put him as a leadoff hitter, because they want to give him opportunities with the runners in scoring position. Yeah. So JP Crawford can still be a leadoff hitter. He just got to get his confidence back and not make foolish swings.
Yeah.
And we're looking at the 1-0 and the pitch. Up high for a ball, 2-0.
Let's go, Vicky. The Vicar.
Victor Robles.
No, I call him Vic.
Anderson's already getting taxed. 72 pitches already going into the fourth inning.
The fourth inning, yeah. The Mariners are making them work a little bit here.
2-0.
And it was like, especially with the in just a second, you'll see. There it is.
Victor Robles is at a 3-0. Tyler Anderson's ready. And now here's the pitch. And that's going to be ball 4, take your base. And now you got runners on first and second with 2 outs. And next up is going to be JP Crawford. And here's my reaction on JP Crawford being up in this situation. Here's my reaction to it.
No, you know what would be sweet here? With 2 outs, drop one right here.
A suicide squeeze?
Yeah, drop a safety squeeze right here.
I don't know. He doesn't have the speed for it.
Drop it down the third base.
And that nearly got him. And that is going to be a 1-0 count for JP.
Oh, what's going on here with Anderson?
Mariners scoring recap. Justin Turner, home runs 8 and 9. And looks like, oh, you're right. Ron Washington's coming out. Looks like there could be some kind of a concern with Tyler Anderson. Maybe he doesn't look too good. Now,
or maybe it's maybe they're just conferring on defensive alignment, maybe. But I actually think something happened with Anderson here.
While we are waiting on that, do you think Armando Galarraga? There's been a little bit of a talk of reversing the call. Should they do it now or leave it as is?
Here's what I want. I want Major League Baseball to acknowledge that that was a horrible call and Galarraga actually had his perfecto. Like, I want to hear them say, you know what? We got it wrong. I think that should be enough. Because, I mean, what's reversing it now, 10, 15 years later going to do? Galarraga's already
looking
out
at
of
the
the league.
1-0, and here's the pitch.
Is no longer umpiring. Like, what does it accomplish? So it will go down in the record books as a perfect game.
That's
officially.
That's what it wants. But maybe you would think that maybe Jim Joyce wants it to happen, so he doesn't have to have that tainted for the rest of his life.
Well, I think the entire baseballing world knows that it was a perfect game. That he got robbed. But I mean, for me, it's like, what the only thing that would accomplish is if Major League Baseball, the mighty Major League Baseball, the league that will never admit wrongdoing. The only thing that I want to hear is for them to admit that, they got it wrong. That's good enough for me. But I mean, if you want to reverse it, okay.
Manfred said he won't do it because he believes it will open Pandora's box for everything else.
I think Rob Manfred is an idiot. Perfect. Like, I don't think
remember when we thought Bud Selig was bad.
I don't understand how it would open up Pandora's box. I think really what it is like, if you do that, then there's going to be a clamoring for them to reinstate.
85 Cardinals are going to want that call back for that World Series. That's one. And then
well, I also think that it's like, if you do it and Major League Baseball does something like that, then you're going to have a lot of people clamoring for Pete Rose. And I think that's
what he's afraid of.
Yeah, that's what he's afraid of. And I don't think that they want to have that on their doorstep, although they should reinstate Pete Rose. But
and here's a wild pitch, and no one's moving. I mean, the most insulting thing that we all saw in the history of sports media was Jim Gray just kept attacking Pete Rose on a night where Pete Rose was finally allowed back on a baseball field, with the exception of watching his son.
Well, Jim Gray's an asshole. Like, that was horrible decorum on the part of Jim Gray.
It was typical mainstream media practice.
Yeah. It's like Pete's already admitted it. So why are you hammering her?
He actually didn't admit it yet. He didn't want to. Now here's the 1-0. He didn't admit it until 2004, even though it was obvious, but he just wasn't in the mood to say it. And plus, he was being celebrated as an all-century player.
Yeah. Right. And it's like, dude, there it is. There it is.
And now we're looking at the 2-0. And here is the pitch. And now here's a liner, and that's going to be a base hit. And that's going to score in a run. We got a second run coming in, possibly the throw to the plate, and it is not in time. And that is going to be 2 RBIs for Julio Rodriguez.
Julio is all of a sudden now. Julio is on fire. Starting to catch fire at the right time.
4-1.
Right, and this is what we've been clamoring for all year, to see this Julio, that wasn't necessarily the perfect at bat, but I'll tell you what, though, he just got it done, man. And that's what we've been waiting to see, clutch Julio.
And how about JP Crawford with that walk and still extends this inning?
Yeah. That was a nice at bat, and
And now here is Cal Raleigh. And the pitch. And now here's a fly ball to deep left field and fouled.
No.
How many times have they...
The foul home runs.
How many foul home runs the Mariners have? I'm just curious about that.
Oh, I don't know. Probably a couple hundred.
Imagine if it was a couple hundred.
Yeah, and then there's... Yeah. All right. God, Cal's just...
And now here's a fly ball to center field, and center fielder's there. Makes the catch, but the good news is Mariners score 3 runs in this to extend this lead going into the bottom of the 4th.
Yeah, man, you get another solo shot from JT, and then you get the clutch base hit from Julio, scoring 2 more runs. But I think it's time, Roof. I think it's time to break out the old Cal Raleigh nickname. And I started calling him this in his rookie year. Maybe it was a little premature at that time, but it still fit. Do you know what the name I gave him?
What?
Rally Killer. I called him Rally Killer Raleigh.
Rally Killer Raleigh, huh?
Yeah, because he always seemed to like that. Like that's a very special nickname that only broke out for just a very few players in Mariner history. Like I gave it to Jose Lopez because Jose Lopez always seemed to kill rallies. And
I liked Jose Lopez because he took over for Brett Boone's spot, so someone had to fill the void.
I'm just saying he always seemed to kill rallies. He was not clutch. And here's the thing, man. Raleigh just seems to be a rally killer. So
Jose Lopez did have a couple good walk-offs.
Yeah, like here's the thing. It's like, yeah, Cal sent us to the playoffs. Yeah, 2 years ago, dude. Get over it. Like he had one clutch moment. And like, listen, here's the thing. I'll admit Cal Raleigh does hit home runs. But outside of him hitting the occasional dinger, what does he do?
Strikes out.
Strikes out
too many foul home runs.
Yeah, he strikes out a whole bunch. And it's funny. It's like, yeah, he had a clutch moment to send us to the playoffs. So yeah, 15 years from now, we'll still be talking about the time that Cal hit the home run. You know,
yeah, I'd rather not do that.
Right? We're still talking about Edgar's double 30 years later.
We're not even, and here's the thing, if we're going to do that kind of nostalgia, can we give 2000 Mariners some kind of attention?
Yeah.
That deserves just as much attention as 95 got.
That was the team. That was the team that should have won the World Series.
They should have.
Yeah. They had
an easier path. All they would have had to play was the New York freaking Mets. That would have been an easy team.
You know, that was the team that actually, what's funny, even though the Mariners won 116 games the next year, that was the team that was slightly better than the 2001 team.
Yeah, I thought 2000 was still the better team.
Yeah.
If we all think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, they squeaked in. By the way, talk about clutch. They squeaked into the wild card in the last game of the season in LA
with a David Bell and A-Rod home runs.
Yep. To squeeze in as the wild card. Shoulda, woulda, coulda. Yeah, I know.
But 2000, unfortunately, doesn't get that attention, and I blame it on the fact that the Mariners hold the grudge on A-Rod.
What's funny, though, is like, that's the problem with this fan base is a lot of people are still hung up on nostalgia. Like it matters.
Oh, too. Now here's a ground ball. Nice stop by Justin Turner. Toss over the first, and that is in time.
Yep.
I mean, hey, I'm also a nostalgia junkie, but at least I level it out, I guess.
Well, I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's cool to talk about, the best moments. I vividly remember the 1-game playoff, and I vividly remember the double. But, as far as like how does that matter today? It doesn't. Right. Like the only thing that I care about is winning championships. And for me, that's it. Right. So it's like, does Cal help us win a championship? Right. Maybe. But the dude really can't hit consistently. Let's just be real about it.
And here's Anthony Rendon looking at the 0-1. He has no home runs this season. And now here's the pitch. Yeah. Popped up, going into foul territory, could be playable. Justin Turner's calling for it, and he makes the catch, and that's going to be 2 down.
Like I co-sign what you said earlier in the broadcast, right? That he is a slightly better version than Mike Zunino.
He is. It's true.
That's it. And we got rid of Mike because he couldn't hit consistently.
Well, Flick of the Switch is correct on this one too. That Cal Raleigh really should not be the best offensive player on the team either. Yeah. So maybe if Cal had some more protection, his batting average wouldn't be so bad, or maybe it wouldn't be to a point where it wouldn't look as bad. We could be like, okay, we can live with it.
Well, what's funny is catcher historically was not a power position, right? That changed when Mike Piazza.
Yogi went to Yogi. It was Yogi Berra.
Well, let's understand, like Yogi was a pretty good hitter, but he also wasn't known for his power. Johnny Bench was a very good hitter, but he wasn't known for his power. Same thing with Carlton Fisk. But the reality was, where it switched in the modern game was when Mike Piazza started hitting all those dingers for the Dodgers. And that's when other teams started looking for catchers with power, right? Like, I'll give you a good example. Dan Wilson was not the greatest hitter in the world. I think he was like a career 260 hitter with zero power, right? But it didn't, like, the Mariners could carry a defensive first catcher because they were getting production everywhere else.
Dan Wilson was just a cherry on top.
That's exactly
the 1-2.
Exactly right. Like, that is the, like,
strike three, and that's going to retire the side. Yeah. And a 1-2-3 inning by Brian Wu, and he has absolutely been on fire. And Steve, continue what you're going to say.
Yeah, like, whatever you get from the catcher position should be just the gravy. I think he used that term as well too. The gravy. But that being said, your catcher should not be the focal point of your offense. But that's where we're at right now. Because Julio is not, Julio for the last year and a half hasn't necessarily been Julio except for that August last year. But for the most part, it's like, if all things were equal and they were getting production from Julio and they were getting production from a Rosarina and maybe Luke Raley consistently, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. But
I mean, we're hoping that maybe Julio will have some kind of a run at the end of September, which could be useful. Like, if I could have traded his August performance of last year for September, like, if they swapped, I'll take that.
See, I mean, there was a reason why I was clamoring for the Mariners just to back the prospect truck up to Juan Soto's doorstep, because Juan Soto would have been that focal point in the offense where you did, like, Julio wouldn't have felt like he had to be the main focal point of the offense because Juan Soto takes that pressure off his shoulders. And that's why I was like, oh, you want 6 prospects for Juan Soto? Let's do it. Like, I knew it was only a year, but you know what? 1 year can change the entire trajectory of this franchise. That's all it takes is one. Because Juan Soto in this lineup, Juan Soto in this lineup with this pitching staff, there's no conversation about did we blow a 10-game lead in the division. That doesn't happen with Juan Soto in this lineup. Just like this offseason when he's a free agent, right? So if he wants a $400 million contract, you give it to him. Because he's only, 26? He's not even really in his prime. Not yet, at least. So, if you sign him to a 10-year deal, you're going to get at least 5 years of that, of prime Juan Soto. And you have Julio.
Rosarena takes it for a ball. And we got Brock Burke on the mound right now, and Tyler Anderson's done. Tyler Anderson was actually on my fantasy baseball team, and it seemed to have backfired today.
I know that Mariner fans want Pete Alonso because he hits dingers, but he's also he also would struggle in Seattle because he also is a high strikeout guy as well too. He's just a better version of Randy Arozarena from the right side.
And Randy Arozarena is also very tough to watch.
Yeah.
I can see why he didn't cost that much in the trade market. The pitch.
Hey, Roof, are you going to cover the Seahawks after the baseball season's done?
If Don't Quit Your Day Job doesn't wreck it so much, but I am looking to cover more of those Monday Night Football games, regardless of the teams.
Yeah, I'll be watching the Seahawks.
And there's a ground ball right to the shortstop. Oh, bobbled, and Rosarena will get to first base.
Here's something funny. Like, when I moved to Michigan, I told myself I wouldn't get emotional over the Detroit Lions. Literally 2 weeks after I got here, I was at my brother-in-law's house, sitting on his couch watching the Detroit Lions, and I got hooked from the very beginning. And
imagine if you were hooked in the 90s watching the entire Barry Sanders era.
Oh, that would have been, well, I was in Seattle at the time, so of course I was watching the Seahawks, being blacked out of their own market. But the crazy thing was I got to see that year. You could see that the pieces were there, and then last year or 2 years ago now, they went 1-6, but then they won like the the last 9, like they went on an 8-game winning streak to close out the season and would have made the playoffs except for the Seahawks. And then last year was just unbelievably beautiful. It was nice seeing the city of Detroit finally get to see a winner, and they rallied around that football team. But it's probably the funnest, the most organic, funnest time I've ever had with a football team. And that's including the Seahawks Super Bowl win. As fun as that was, it wasn't like the Lions last year.
Outside for a ball. And looking at Pete Alonso's numbers in Seattle, he was 0 for 11 in Seattle. Now, granted, it was against Mariners pitching, so it's kind of an unfair assessment.
Yeah, I don't get caught up in the whole like what have you done at T-Mobile Park thing. It's like literally the only metric is like are you a good hitter? You know what I mean? And so I put the power numbers aside, and I like to look at the consistency. And Pete, he might
now the 1-2 and a foul ball. Flick of the switch. 49ers and Jets. Oh, I'm doing whatever Monday Night Football gives me. I mean, there's nothing you can do.
Well, what's funny is I love that Husky, the over arrogant Husky fan. I love it. But the terrible, the 49ers and the Jets, really? Yeah, why not? 49ers.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers versus Brock Purdy.
I hate to break it to Seahawks fans. The 49ers are still better. They
still are. But with that Super Bowl losing hangover, anything's possible now.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this though, right? My biggest problem with the Seahawks is they just don't have a quarterback. You need a quarterback in this league.
Yeah, Russell Wilson was their best quarterback. Yeah. And he still is going to be.
I think that,
I never thought Geno was the guy from day one. I thought he was going to help the Seahawks get the number 1 pick.
He's a better version of Tavares Jackson.
Oh, Tavares Jackson.
Remember that name.
2-2.
And
what's funny? I actually didn't follow the Seahawks like on a game-to-game basis until the Tavares Jackson era. It was that Matt Hasselbeck that got me interested because I want to see a Seahawks team from the ground. So I came in at the perfect time.
I remember watching a game when the Seahawks were in San Francisco. This was during the Hasselbeck era.
And strike recalled.
2005 or 2006. They were in San Francisco, and Matt's running with the football to the end zone, and he gets cracked from behind as he's crossing the goal line, and he separated 2 ribs, and he finished the
2006.
game.
It was
2006. He finishes the game. That dude was a warrior. He took hits and still was, like even though he wasn't the greatest quarterback in the world, that dude had heart. That's why I love those type of. Those are the type of players I love.
Pitch,
but Geno, he has a ceiling, and if everything breaks right, he can get you to the playoffs. We've seen that, but he can't get you through the playoffs.
He can't close games, and nobody wants to talk about that. And they're saying, "Oh, but the defense put him up to that." But not when all wins are going to be handed to you.
Right.
Still got to figure it out. The pitch inside for a ball.
Who was the backup quarterback we got from Denver?
Drew Lock.
Did
not like him one bit.
Yeah, I thought he was better than Geno though.
As we are looking at a 1-1.
Yeah, man. I actually was rooting for the 49ers.
The pitch. And that is a strike 2.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I didn't want the whole Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce Hollywood finish. Didn't want that.
Well, so back in the 90s when the Seahawks were blacked out, I watched a lot of 49er football. Like I remember the end of the Joe Montana era, and I watched the entire Steve Young era of the San Francisco 49ers. My dad's from San Francisco, so we watched a lot of 49er football. And,
so how could you watch a Seahawks game on the road if you're a Seahawks fan?
No, because when we were blacked out in Seattle, we didn't see home Seahawks games. We only could see the Seahawks when they were on the road. So the next nearest NFL town to Seattle is San Francisco. So we saw a lot of 49er football during that time.
And I can see why there's a lot of 49er fans here.
And it was never a problem. There was no rivalry between the Seahawks and the 49ers, even when the Seahawks ended up going to the NFC West in the early 2000s. It was not a thing until Pete Carroll showed up, and because of their rivalry with Stanford and USC, it carried over.
That's what happened. Yeah.
Yeah. There was never any
Dylan Moore
between the 49ers and the Seahawks.
And that is going to be a ball on the inside.
And I was actually talking to my ex-wife about that. I was like, do you think that rivalry eventually will fade now that, Pete and Jim Harbaugh are completely removed from the situation?
1-0.
And she was saying that it'll probably fade.
It pretty much has. And even the rivalry today is still not even anywhere near as it was back then. And also, you also have to put into account that it was also Richard Sherman against Jim Harbaugh too.
Right. And I think, because you had the storyline between it, which made it fantastic. But, I'll say this, right? In order for it to be a rival, both teams kind of have to win, games to make it a rivalry. And right now it's been all San Francisco.
San Francisco handles the Seahawks, and they have been for years.
Yeah, the Seahawks rivalry was with the Broncos. That's 100% it was. And I remember good Monday night games, man.
Brian Bosworth says, "I'm going to do this to you, John Elway."
Yeah, man. I remember watching good Monday night games in the Kingdom versus the Broncos growing up. And, dude, I hated John Elway so much. That pretty boy.
Did you know that he lost an opportunity to become a minority owner of the Denver Broncos? He had a choice of either $21 million or give up that $21 million and do it as ownership, and he could have been worth billions. The pitch.
Yeah. Well, he had to buy in for 21, right?
He would have had to give. So he would have just had to transfer his $21 million contract into ownership. And of course, in hindsight, he probably should have done it because he was already getting money elsewhere anyway.
I'll say that, like if I was a player, I probably would have done that too. I probably would have. Hindsight's 2020. Imagine if he deferred that and took an ownership stake. Yeah, 100%. Yeah, hindsight's 2020. But yeah, I remember it was in 1992. It was Broncos Seahawks Monday Night Football, and that was the year that our starting quarterback was Kelly Stauffer. The backup was Dan McGuire,
Mark McGuire's brother.
Yep, and the Seahawks ended up running to a 2-14 record that year
with the third best defense in the league.
Yeah, they had a top 5 defense, but they had one of the worst offenses in the league, coincidentally. And it was a Monday Night Football game, and Kelly Stauffer had just been horrible up to that point in the season. So they went to,
and here's a ground ball, and that's a fair ball into the corner, and that should at least get a double. And Dylan Moore gets a second base, and Rosarena the third, and what a hit by Dylan Moore. He's actually stepped up in this game.
Tom Flores, coincidentally, one of the worst coaches in Seahawks history, went with a plucky Stan Gelbaugh in that game. And I'll tell you what, man, Stan Gelbaugh won that game on Monday Night Football.
Do you know what's tragic about the year after was Drew Bledsoe was number 1 pick. They get Seahawks ultimately get Rick Meyer, but even if the Seahawks had the number 1 pick, they still would have picked Meyer over Bledsoe.
Yeah, I know. That's because, you're talking about Tom Flores.
Notre Dame.
But also, it's also Ken Behring as well, too, because Ken Behring probably would have had them trade off the number 1 pick. Ken Behring was not trying to pay anyone during those times. But, I'll say this for Rick Meyer. He had a very good rookie year. He had one of the better rookie years of the 90s.
He had better rookie stats than Bledsoe.
Yeah. He just couldn't carry it over. Yeah.
We got Eddie.
It's
my friend saw Justin Turner at the Irvine Spectrum yesterday. I'm a Dodgers fan, and I miss Justin Turner. He's a huge Dodger fan, by the way. Now here's the pitch, and that is a strike.
It's good. It's since the Guggenheim Group bought the Dodgers. It's been a good time to be a Dodger fan.
Yep, and he's got that Shohei Ohtani on him. The pitch.
They just print money, man.
Swing and a miss, strike 2. And Mitch Garver may kill this momentum, and I hope he doesn't.
You know what's funny is I always wondered how it would have played out had we didn't have Dennis Erickson as a head coach, because there was that time where we had Warren Moon and Ricky Waters on our offense. And this
do we have Brian Blades on the team too?
Yeah, Brian Blades. And you're wondering if you actually had
Cortez Kennedy.
Cortez Kennedy, yep. The Seahawks were
Sean
very good
Springs for like a split second.
In 97, 98.
8-8 teams.
Yeah.
And 1998 was controversial where they should have made the playoffs because they got screwed over by that in that Jets game.
Vinny Testaverde, yep. But, you wonder if you had a competent coach, whether or not something could have
won too.
And then we get Mike Holmgren in 99. They don't bring
fly
back
ball, and it's going to be popped up.
And we get John Kitna.
Think John Kitna, I mean, what do you think would have happened if the Seahawks went with one more year with Warren Moon with Mike Holmgren on a West Coast offense? Because Warren Moon was more of an air raid guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, no, he was a run and shoot guy. He was in those June Jones run and shoot Houston offenses. And that's why he didn't want Warren Moon, because Mike Holmgren's version of the West Coast offense does not involve 30-yard throws, right? It's very
which is why Brett Favre drove him nuts.
Yeah, very 10-yard seam passes, and and that's why they went with John Kitna in 99. And I remember when they got off to an 8-2 start, we were like, "Ooh, 14 wins," and they didn't necessarily finish. They fell apart. Yeah, I gotta show you
my NFL intro video. Like, this is when I do the Monday night, not even that, but here it is.
Touchdown! Rooftop Sports welcomes you to a special presentation of the National Football League.
Are you kidding me?
Oh, that's pretty dope, actually. I like that. I'll join you for some football games this fall.
Not the Cowboys, Seahawks and the Lions game is what you need.
Yep. What's funny is I didn't look at the schedule until like the first week of the season, right? Because I was planning on because the year before I went to the Ford Field when the Seahawks rolled through in week 4. But it was like the Lions' first home game of the season against the Seahawks, and I remember checking the schedule like the day before, and I was like, damn. I didn't. Yeah, it was like the second game of the season. Yeah,
as
first home opener.
By the way, Brian Wu has been insanely efficient. 40 pitches, and now we're at the bottom of the 5th. That's unheard of.
He's good. He's been effective. Well, I like the fact that he's more or less been pitching to contact.
He is definitely knocking on the door of Luis Castillo's job for possibly the playoffs, or let alone next year.
Well, let me ask you a question real quick, because when that whole interview with Ryan Divish came out with the Marine Layer guys, and that was his opinion that maybe one of those starters was going to get moved, and he dropped the name George Kirby, and my whole thought process was like, why would you change? Like even in arbitration years, like you can wait a couple more years before you have to trade him because he's not going to resign. But even in arbitration, he's still cheaper than what you're paying Luis Castillo. And Luis Castillo is probably out of the guys in the rotation, he's probably the guy that you probably would want to trade.
I would trade Castillo because if we got Randy Arozarena off of couple of prospects that may or may not work out, and they were very low ranked prospects. Imagine what we could get out of a solid starter. And the pitch to Drury, and here's a fly ball to deep, not so deep. Robles makes the catch, and we got 2 down already. And just a few pitches, 3 pitches already, 2 outs.
The crazy thing is, like, even if it was a quintessential Jerry DiPoto trade where you get young, high upside, like young major leaguers, you know what I mean? Like, it would still be far beneficial to keep Logan Gilbert around.
I think Logan Gilbert will be the most likely to sign for the Mariners, and I think Kirby would be the first to go the pitch.
Well, the reasoning was that because he didn't sign the extension this offseason, it's like, well, he had no incentive to do that. So, just because he hasn't doesn't mean he won't. And and he's right. Flick of the switch. Divish is just throwing out speculation, and not good speculation.
Brian Divish has been met with mixed reception for sure from fans.
I'm sure he's talked to someone, but unless it was Jerry DiPoto telling him directly, but should the Mariners trade a starting pitcher for Mark Vientos? Sure. But the idea that they're going to trade somebody and get some impact back it's not a Jerry DiPoto deal, man. Jerry DiPoto is going to trade him for young high upside players
that may not even crack the major leagues, and when they do, they'll just be strikeout kings in the 1-1.
Jerry DiPoto is all about
hoarding prospects.
No. Service time. He likes club control. So you're going to get that. So, that's like regardless of who they trade.
Now here's a liner and right to Dylan Moore, throw to first in time, and it wasn't a liner. It was kind of a ground ball line-ish, and that is a 1-2-3. And the amazing thing is, going into the 6th inning, Brian Wu is still under 50 pitches.
That's the thing. It's like you still got 3 more years with not George Kirby, but Logan Gilbert before he hits free agency, right? And even in arbitration, like the upside, maybe he's getting paid $15 million, maybe. That's still $10 million. That's still pretty much $10 million cheaper than Luis Castillo. And it's like, well, he's got a no trade clause. Yeah, but you know what though? If the Dodgers came calling, if they put the word out that they're moving Castillo, you would get the Yankees calling. You're getting, the Dodgers, specifically with the Yankees though. That might be an opportunity to get Jason Dominguez.
Yeah, but Jason Dominguez has injury problems though.
True.
But I do have his rookie card.
Yeah. I like Jason Dominguez. Yeah, you're right about that. But that's the thing. It's like, there's there also could be an opportunity with the Dodgers to bring back some very good high some very high level impact. The possibilities are endless. And Luis Castillo is valuable around the league.
Yeah, there are teams that would still take his services.
Yeah, like the idea that, if all things were equal, it would either be Luis Castillo or possibly Brian Wu because of the injury issues with Brian Wu.
But Brian Wu this season has definitely upped his trade value quite significantly.
For sure.
So it's going to be a question of, do you want to go with I would think that maybe you'll get more out of Brian Wu because of club control and that he's been good, but the thing that's holding him back is going to be that injury concern that he has already shown this season.
Yeah, what's funny is it's like, there's this stigma around baseball when it comes to hitters coming to T-Mobile Park. It's not the ballpark, man. There has been so many examples
Debunked.
that who roll through T-Mobile Park and just rake. It's the
Robinson
reason,
Cano.
It's like the reason why players don't want to come here is because the Mariners aren't paying.
Yeah, Mariners, but yet
they're just not paying.
But yet we got Seattle sports media and Seattle Times saying, "Oh, it's all T-Mobile Park. It's all T-Mobile Park's fault."
Right.
We got to bring in the fences more, and they already did. Now here's a fly ball foul.
They're not going to hold Jerry DiPoto to task. They're not going to take him to task. They're not going to be controversial. They're just going to toe the line.
And by doing that, it is to pull the victim card for the Mariners. And now here's the pitch and the ground ball foul. I mean, look at Baltimore. They don't exactly have a hitter-friendly park to for a right-handed batter, and they adapt.
There's no reason to trade Logan Gilbert right now. Now, if he's going into his 6th season, his last year before free agency, and it was very clear he wasn't. Now
here's a fly ball to center field, caught by the center fielder.
Yeah, I mean, if this was year 6 and he still hadn't re-signed and it's very clear that he won't, then yeah, you trade him before the season. But to do it now just makes absolutely no sense. It's like you're trading him because he's going into his last 3 years of heavy arbitration. It makes absolutely no sense.
And now here's the pitch to Crawford, and that is going to be a strike.
You traded Robbie Ray. Not because he was hurt, because he was making $24 million a year.
The pitch.
But you're going to keep Castillo.
And then you traded Robbie Ray for A dud, Mitch Haniger.
Yeah, I mean, it's like.
I mean, I'll eat my words. I still said that was a good trade. That's the problem. And now here's a fly ball to center field, and he is there, and he makes the catch. And you can't blame T-Mobile Park for that.
Do you know what I was actually more excited about that trade for? Because we actually got Anthony Desclafani back in return, and I was like, dude, that is going to that dude is a spot starter, but a pretty solid bullpen arm. That's going to help us out a lot. And then we
got turned around.
He got turned around. We traded him for Polanco, and then he blows out his elbow. Tommy John.
Mariners dodged a bullet on that, just like how Dipoto dodged the bullet on Nove Marte and Edwin Arroyo, who are also highly touted prospects to pitch, and a swing and a miss to the foul ball. And tragically, too, Mariners got to do something about Felnine Celestine eventually. I know it's too early, but he suffered for the second season in a row, season-ending injury, so he does clearly have injury problems. I would wonder if they're going to package... I would package him in a trade eventually. Once he gets to like more Everett level, the pitch, I would.
Yeah.
Because you can't... There's no guarantees he's going to have the longevity, at least what Cole Young and maybe Cole Emerson have shown. And actually, Emerson had some injury problems too in the 2-1. Yeah.
I would trade any of our top prospects if it meant we actually get a very good, consistent hitter.
And they can make up for it later. They're already getting... I heard they're on the verge of getting someone from Venezuela for next year anyway. The pitch, low for a ball, 3-2.
You know, it's
so
like,
the Mariners
oh my God.
They have deep connections on getting someone from Venezuela,
funny,
Cuba, Dominican Republic.
It's funny though. It's like, you know, I saw just on Twitter today that, you know, Laz Montez is having a phenomenal. A
walk for Julio Rodriguez, and Julio Rodriguez has gotten on base, I think, all 4 times today.
Yeah, he's had a good game. Somebody was like, yeah, Laz Montez is having a hot August for the Aqua Sox. And somebody chimed in and said, dude, 2026 is going to be fire. And I just shook my head.
Yeah, and 2026, they better have a World Series champion by then.
It's like there's no guarantees.
And it's popped up.
Any prospect.
He could be Carlos Peguero. And I did talk to Joe Doyle. He did tell me that the worst case scenario of Laz Montez could be Carlos Peguero, because he did point out that he does have extreme strikeout concerns, and he still does.
He still does. Yeah. Flick of the switch says, don't give that ballpark
excuse.
He's 100% right.
No, I think it's a horrible excuse.
I can actually make a case for it being one of the better hitters ballpark because of the expansive outfield. Contact hitters will know exactly how to take advantage of the wide gaps.
Let's name players that actually blossomed. Let's name players. Let's just play a game. We'll name players that blossomed out of T-Mobile. Yeah. I'll go first. 2000 Edgar Martinez, 37 home runs, 145 RBIs. And he was older.
Right. A-Rod
2000, 10+ WAR. Yeah. Brett Boone, 2001.
John
Olerud did well. Mike Cameron did pretty well.
Mike Cameron. Even David Bell did well here.
David Bell did all right.
Randy Wynn did well here.
Raul Ibanez had some of his best numbers in Seattle.
Adrian Beltre did well here.
Held up. Richie Sexton's first 2 seasons.
Yep. Russell Brandon did well here.
2009 Ken Griffey Jr. gutted out 19 home runs.
How about the guy who did it for a decade, Ichiro Suzuki?
Jose Lopez had a time.
For a little bit.
Robbie Cano.
Nelson Cruz, Kyle Seager hit well here.
So what's the excuse? Yeah. Oh, they'll be but those are like really good players. It's like, thanks for proving the point.
Well, that's the point. And oh, by the way, Mike Trout hits well here.
He loves it here. Albert Pujols hit here pretty well.
Oh, how about home dude? Rafael Palmeiro raked in this ballpark. Barry Bonds raked in this ballpark. It's like the ballpark is not the.
It's not the reason.
It's not the issue. The Mariners just don't pay to bring hitters here,
and they don't know how to develop and coach.
Yeah, and they won't trade their prospects either. So,
which is why I don't buy the whole rhetoric of, oh, the Mariners are just cursed. Like, there's no curse. It's just incompetence.
It's gross mismanagement.
Gross mismanagement. And even the Red Sox and the Cubs had their years of problems of mismanagement for years.
Like, you go through the lineage of this team in the history and you just see nothing but mismanagement from 1977 to today. The only time we didn't
1-1
was
the Pat Gillick and the Woody Woodward years.
Yeah, well, I can also, yeah, for sure. Woody Woodward was hamstringed because of the Nintendo ownership. Same thing with Pat Gillick.
And now here's Joe Adell, who did hit a home run last time, and now here's the pitch. And now here's a fly ball drilled to left field. And forget about that one. That is another home run by Joe Adell. And now it's a 4-2 ball game. That was just absolutely just crushed.
God, he's done it twice, man. Look at Joe Adell.
He is one of the futures of the team. Yeah. And as bad and dysfunctional the Angels have been, they still do have future bright prospects on their lineup right now.
Yeah. You know what's funny is when the Pilots came online in '69, they were playing in the worst ballpark in Major League Baseball, and they also had the highest ticket prices in Major League Baseball,
and the highest amount of porta potties.
And they also had the worst ownership because they just didn't have the money, and so they needed.
A nice catch by Victor Robles! A nice diving catch.
So they needed to sell out their ballpark as much as they possibly could. So when it came to the expansion draft, they went with a heavy roster of veteran players, a lot of guys who are either past their prime or never will be, like bench players that never really got their shot, and ultimately it collapsed. And that was predicated on the fact that they needed money for ballpark upgrades. So when it came to the Mariners didn't have a stadium issue because they had the new Kingdom. They didn't have that issue, and so they easily could have started their tenure as a Major League Baseball team with an expansion draft of young players, and they could have started from the beginning. They could have been a developmental
Their
team.
most notable players,
and they didn't
in 77 through 80 was Rupert Jones and Bruce
Bochy.
Bochy.
They followed the exact same playbook as the Pilots. Their expansion draft was a lot of guys who were washed, and
here's a ground ball right to third base. Nice play by Arias. Throw to first in time. That's 2 outs.
The guy who pitched opening day for Seattle in 1977, Diego Segui, was also on the
Pilot
roster of the Pilots. I mean, they went with a heavy veteran, and it wasn't until 80 did they start really
going young.
And so like basically they put themselves behind the 8 ball for the first 5 years of their
and then that's where
history.
Alvin Davis, Dave Valley,
but they also
Tom Patrorik,
but they also hired Nimrods as GMs.
Maury Willis, possibly the worst manager.
Maury Willis.
He is bar none the worst manager. None.
But the crazy thing was they also moved off of players that were pretty good, and they brought back trash. I mean, they just, the Mariners did not really start being good until like 1990, 1991. But it really started in 87 with the drafting of Junior. And by the way, they didn't want to draft him because they didn't want to pay the bonus. And
I think Chuck Armstrong was the one that said, no, draft him.
Yeah, Lee Pelakudis and Chuck Armstrong were like, no, you're drafting this dude and you're going to pay him. And that really
literally one good thing they ever did for the franchise.
But it was in that era that they drafted Edgar, drafted Omar. They drafted, they made a savvy trade for Jay Buhner, traded for Randy Johnson.
1-2. And here's a fly ball to left field, and Arozarena is there, and he makes the catch. And with the exception of the Joe Adell home run, Brian Wu still held it together.
And don't get me wrong, man. Woody made some dumb trades, man. The
Gamer 11, don't jinx it, boy.
Yeah. The Omar Vizquel for Felix Fermin trade. Trading Tino to the Yankees, and it's like, he made some bonehead deals, but he was the
Woodward
he was the
with
one
the Tino trade. He had no choice.
Yeah, well, he could have kept him for this final year and let him walk in free agency, but
at least, could have won a World Series in '96.
That's but really it was the mid '90s when Woodward really kind of hit his stride as a GM. It was the 40 years of Pat Gillick, where they ran incredibly well at the major league level. At least Gillick decimated the minor league system, but he wasn't here to build a minor league system. He was here to win a World Series. But then they hired Bavasi, and
they gave him. They didn't give him any restrictions. That's the hypocrisy there.
He dug this. He tore down a division-winning team and drove him straight into the dirt. And Jack Sorensic took that even farther. And Jerry Dipoto, the only thing I'll give Jerry Dipoto is he can build a minor league franchise.
He built a great farm system. And if Jerry didn't have much of an ego, if he was willing to, we would actually keep him as like a head scout or some kind of like minor league director kind of position. But with his ego, he won't do that.
No, I mean, it's like, the difference between a guy like Jerry Dipoto and what's his bucket down in San Diego. He used to be the GM with Texas.
I wouldn't know.
It's like there is an emphasis on drafting and scouting and developing, but there's also an emphasis at the major league level, right? And
now here's the pitch to Rosarena.
That has to
ball.
The major league, your major league roster is the most important because the organization doesn't run if your major league team.
Now here's a fly ball to center field, and that is caught by the center fielder.
Yeah, when Roger Youngward departed. Yeah.
Roger Youngward was the one that drafted Alex. He was the one that was a part of getting Alex Rodriguez.
Mm-hmm. Yep, and that's the but it was after Pat Gillick left that the Mariners couldn't keep a manager forever. They couldn't keep a manager around.
That's gonna be a low for a ball. Oh, going back to the Pilots, the other thing that no one really talks about also about Sick Stadium, the location of Sick Stadium was also atrocious, and if that site was still used as a stadium.
Back in the 30s, it was a great area for baseball because obviously the Rainier Valley had yet to be developed.
And here's a ground ball right to the second baseman, throw to first in time.
And the reason why they chose that stadium was because of the breeze, right? On hot summer nights, that was an area where the breeze would stay low. And it would cool players and fans down. But the problem was, in that time in the 30s, it was called Garlic Gulch because a lot of next to the stadium there were farmers, right? It was a farming area. But over the years when the Rainier Valley was developed, then it became a terrible location because the Rainier Avenue, there was just no parking. You know what I mean?
I've been to that area. It's not exactly an ideal area to drive.
Yeah. Well, back in the 60s, it was when it was a minor league, when the Rainiers were playing there, it was fine. But by the time 69 rolled around and then they expanded Sick Stadium, the biggest problem was traffic and also parking. There was not enough parking for a major, for Major League Baseball. It was a clusterfuck.
We'll get an idea. The funny thing is, with the Sacramento team, that would possibly be the last time since 69. That was the first time since 69 since a major league team is playing in a minor league stadium. Other than Expos playing in Puerto Rico.
The Mariners were trying to play at Cheney when the ceiling tiles fell down. Yeah, when the ceiling tiles fell, they were trying to play their home games at Cheney.
Said no,
and so the Mariners were stuck on the road.
Ironically, went on a 9-1 run.
Yeah. But that's the history
3-1
of the Seattle Mariners. It's not a curse.
Ball 4, take your base. Yeah, it's not curse. It is years of mismanagement.
They will not pay to bring in a president of baseball operations that has been a winner. They won't pay to bring in a winning GM. And Jerry Dipoto had no history of winning. in his previous stops. I think he was an interim in Arizona, and then he beefed with Mike Scioscia with the Angels. He was not that he was not a well acclaimed GM when he came to Seattle. He was a cheap alternative.
As we're looking at the 0-1 for Dylan Moore, who has shot up his batting average quite a bit in the pitch. And that's going to be popped up to right field. It's going to be quite a bit of running. And doesn't make the catch.
No, you're right, Gamer 11. Same could be said about the Red Sox and the Yaki family. You're absolutely right. The Red Sox were not cursed because they sold Babe Ruth to the Yankees. They were cursed because they
gross mismanagement.
They never went out and built a team. They were always willing to bring in veteran guys that were on the tail end of their prime.
With the exception of a couple of lucky runs where they almost won a World Series.
And it was a shame too because they had the best hitter, probably the best pure hitter this game.
Ted Williams,
yeah.
He was also a World War II and a Korean War vet.
Yep.
And some say if he did not go to war, he would have owned the home run record, possibly.
But it was a shame that they wasted his career, and when the Red Sox, it sucks because they were great in the 70s. The Red Sox were phenomenal and just came up shy against the Big Red Machine, man. It just is what it is. Yeah.
And then poor Bill Buckner, who has that.
Yeah, that was. Yeah, and what's funny about it is that was Game 6. They still had Game 7. Like that's the thing is like Buckner was crucified, but yet that was only
before the
Game
series
6.
Was even over.
Yeah, but that was Game 6.
And what about the leading up to it, where they gave up those back-to-back hits? What about that?
Yeah, it's also like the what was it the Bartman kid in Chicago.
The Bartman thing's a shame. I cannot.
Yeah.
Because of that, I don't like the Cubs just because of that.
By the way, Moises Alou was never going to catch that ball.
And had he not reacted that way, that wouldn't have triggered the replay. That would have been under the rug easily.
And he never was going to catch the ball to begin with anyways. And then
now here's a ground ball right to second base, force out on Josh Rojas, and that will retire the side.
But that was also Game 6.
They still had Game 7.
They still had Game 7.
And they acted like it was all over. And by the way, we got to do something. Bottom of the 7th. Time for Take Me Out to the Ball Game. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd.
Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jacks. I don't care if I ever get back, so
let's root for the Mariners. If they don't win, it's a shame. It would be a shame because Brian Woo's on fire and Julio.
For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Do you know?
Oh no!
What? I've seen a lot of people on Twitter, Mariners fans on Twitter, saying like, "Let's bring back Louie."
Hey, here I am.
Yeah, but you know what the crazy thing though is that the only time it was legit, the only thing that was legit was Yankees Orioles ALCS, where the fan reached out and actually took away
Jeffrey Mayer.
There you go. That was the only time where it was legit because home dude actually had to play on the ball, and that ball was
Carrasco had to play.
Yeah, he was against the wall. The ball was coming down. He had his glove up. The ball was going into his glove, and Kid came over and took the ball out of play. And that easily should have been, at that point under those rules, that would have been a double.
Worst case scenario.
Yeah. Now I think the rule is if there's fan interference, it's an out.
Yeah.
But back in those days, it was ruled a ground rule double.
They couldn't even give him that.
That was
1996.
1996? Yeah, you're right.
Derek Jeter.
Yep. Jeter.
But yeah, also the other thing was Alex Gonzalez should have gotten more than responsibility for that 2003 with his error. That should have been a double play. So if you want to talk about Bartman, you talk about Alex Gonzalez or...
Sure. Oh, by the way, and for all those fans who think Derek Jeter wouldn't have been a Hall of Famer if he was on the Kansas City Royals or, some piss poor team like that, he would have. Derek Jeter was a winner.
He was still a good player.
He was a great player.
As we're looking at an 0-2.
The dude was 15 years old in his garage in the dead of winter in Kalamazoo, Michigan, taking cuts in his garage because there was snow on the ground. Like at 15 years old, that dude was dedicated at 15.
Dustin says, poor Sap Bartman.
Yeah.
When they won it, they invited him back. Of course, Bartman's not going to take it. They scarred his life. He's probably not even a Cubs fan anymore.
Base hit.
And here that was Rendon. Here's the pitch. And that's going to be a base hit. And that's another one. And hopefully that's just going to be a single. And yes, it will, because with Rendon's lackadaisical speed, he ain't going to second base on that.
Oh, yeah. By the way, that was the and Major League Baseball screwed the Indians in 2016. I still believe that. Because the rain was starting to stop when they called.
But then they still delayed it.
They still delayed it. The rain was dissipating, and they still called a delay when the Indians were up in that game, and it killed all their momentum.
You know what was the funny thing is most people were still cheering for the Indians over the quote cursed Cubs.
Yeah, no, but that was the thing. Major League Baseball wanted the Cubs to win a World Series because it was the storyline. It was the reason why people were watching, and the Indians were far and away the better team that year. That's what losers say. I know, but still.
0-1. That's gonna be a 1-1 count.
The Indians got robbed in 1997. That was the one where they literally got robbed. Not because of anything, not because of any conspiracy theory. It's because of what's his ass? Former Mariner closer.
Jose Mesa.
Jose Mesa. Yep.
There's a reason why he lost his job after that.
Yeah. Jose Mesa.
He lost that job to Mike Jackson. Let's get a big group to come out at the end of the season chant sell the team.
Ooh, I would love to see Mariner fans with the banners at T-Mobile that says sell. Just like the Ace fans are doing down there in Oakland. That would be phenomenal.
Gamer 11, let's talk about that. Reach me out on Instagram or Twitter X, and we can try to get a huge group on that.
Oh,
that would get some publicity, especially for my channel and everyone else.
Yeah.
The 1-2. Swing and a miss, strike 3. But I think it would only make sense if the Mariners missed the playoffs.
Good pitch right there, man. That was a fastball riding in on the hands. That was a very good pitch by Brian Wu, by the way. He'll DM you.
He will. Either on my Instagram or my Twitter X.
I gotta set up an Instagram for the new soccer page.
Have you started it yet?
Blog. Yeah, man. We actually got some nice views for the last one. We got a new show coming out on Sunday night, so it'll be around.
What's the name of the channel?
Stateside Footy.
I gotta see this. Hold on.
Stateside Footy. And
the pitch, and that's a foul ball. You're gonna have to link it to me because your channel is probably too new.
Yeah, it is. It's when you're at YouTube, you just go it's like at Stateside Footy 27.
I'm a baseball historian. I'm the historian, man. Okay, we both are. Yeah. But yeah, Steve has the edge because he watched Mariners baseball since the 80s. Yeah. As we are looking at an 0-2 for Moniak, who homered yesterday, and here's the pitch. And now here's a fly ball to deep right center field, and that is, I think that's gone. Yep, that is gone, and this game is tied. Now it's 4-4.
Yeah, right here.
Oh my!
Right there.
As soon as I said Moniak just hit a home run yesterday.
Mickey Moniak. Yep.
And I'm just stunned.
I'll tell you what, man. I'm stunned.
Oh boy. And I don't like that I also don't like that over the line rule kind of thing. You know what I mean? And by the way, Brian Wu is out for this game. And
there you go. I just sent you a link to it.
Thanks. Well, take me your thoughts on the fact that it is a tie ball game now.
Well, you know what? It's baseball. So yeah, I'm more of a, don't get me wrong. I guess you can call me an amateur historian. I would say that I'm more geared towards the Mariner side of things, just because I've seen essentially the last 30 years of Mariner baseball. So 30, 35 years. Yeah. So
yeah, Mariners.
Hey, by the way, gamer, you didn't jinx it.
There's no jinx. The Mariners do it to themselves. But yeah, I think it is more likely that Gamer and I may end up having a sell the team rally.
Yeah, but now, now we got ourselves a ball game. So now this is right there for the Mariners right now. Now it's a time for the Mariner bats to put this one away, right? So yeah, you've gave up the lead. We're at a tie ball game, but that doesn't mean that the owner still isn't on the offense to get a couple runs now.
I mean, you would think with 4 runs it should be enough. I mean,
yeah. That's the thing right now. Julio is having an unbelievable game up to this point. You're getting some very nice performances from the Mariner offense. So Justin Turner, 2 home run night. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Dustin. The John Stanton has no incentive to sell unless somebody, because that's the thing is like baseball is set up where owners will literally all they have to do is sit back in the cut and just take the bag, right? With revenue sharing, with their TV deal, they can lose. It's been shown, right? Like everybody assumes that the Oakland A's aren't profitable. They're 100% profitable, even with nobody showing up, and even with the controversy surrounding them, the A's make money.
I'll check on that. I'll check on the Forbes. Now here's the pitch.
Yeah, that is
a strike.
That's
not it's accurate.
No, because you know why? Major League Baseball has the accounting where they literally can fudge their own books to show losses.
So you don't buy the fact that they lost $40 million in 2021, 8.7 in 2022. They did make $29 million in profit last season, and they've lost $11 million this season. You don't buy that.
No. Because you can write off salaries to show losses, right? Are they cash losses? No, they're not.
You think those are just players?
And when you look at what each team makes from their national TV deal, and the A's still also get paid from their local deal. It's like you can't tell me that they lose money.
All Angels scoring were given up by home runs. So although the Mariners do a good job not allowing too many men on base, they have problems giving up home runs. The pitch.
Well, here's JT Chargois.
And JT Chargois is working on a 2-2 on Brandon Drury.
And because of the way the league is structured, their valuation, and because of the success of the Dodgers, like the Dodgers' success has a rub off to every
2-2
team in baseball.
Ground ball foul.
Yeah. So it's like, success of other teams also factors into the valuation, right? So, like for instance, right? So if let's just say that John Fisher wanted to sell tomorrow, there's a good chance that the Oakland A's get sold for $1 billion plus.
And now here's a fly ball to right field, and that is barely foul.
Yeah, these are owning a professional franchise in any sport in this country is very good business. There you go, right there, a pop up shortstop. There's JP, 2 away,
and that is popped up, and you say JP Crawford will catch that, and we got 2 outs.
So it's big boy pants time for the Mariners. They need to pull up their big boy pants and get the show going offensively again. So far, they've been great.
And we've got Matt Tiasis up on the plate. Can't even say his name. Probably didn't even say it right, but whatever.
Tyus
in the pitch. And that is going to be low for a ball.
Ooh. Come on, Sharkwa. You gotta actually, pitch to the strike zone here.
And now here's the pitch again. And yep, that hit the dirt, and luckily nobody was on base.
You can understand why the Marlins traded him.
Now we get it, don't we? He hasn't been exactly fantastic.
Well, I guarantee you Magic Johnson's not blowing any of his personal money to bring in players. That is a situation where the Dodgers understand that winning makes them more valuable, and the more they win, the more money from other sources, revenue sources, stream in. When they signed Shohei Ohtani, signed Shohei Ohtani, it turned out that just him being on the team was worth like $230 million just in extra sponsorship revenue that they didn't have before because of all the all their Japanese sponsorship now. Yeah, he's back in Japan. He's pimping Sapporo beer. Yeah, the Dodgers,
and the pitch.
The Dodgers,
Ball 4, take your base, and JT Chargois gets on base with a walk.
Yeah, like Shohei Ohtani was worth billions to them. Yeah.
And we got Joe Adell, who has a chance to hit another home run. If he does, that'll be 3 in a game, as he is the 9th batter on this team. Camera showing to Dan Wilson, looking a little bit tense.
That was the reason why George Steinbrenner did when he was still alive, and the reason why he constantly always was bringing in players, because he understood the simple philosophy that winning is good for business. And there's a reason why the Yankees valuation shot up in a 15-year period from 1990 to 2005. I think their valuation went from like
01. And now here's a ground ball right to JP, throws a second, and in time. And speak of soccer, your channel, I do have a video that I made on soccer, and it's about remember, do you hear about that controversy between Korea and Italy in the 2002 World Cup where it was allegedly botched by the referee? Here's my short video I made, and it's called Korea versus Italy Controversy Debunked.
In the 2002 FIFA World Cup, South Korea and Italy squared off in the round of 16, where Italy had a 1-0 lead, and then Korea equalized near stoppage time and won in extra time. However, it was also notorious for being one of the more controversial matches in World Cup history due to referee bias towards Korea. However, there was one moment where Italy could have erased the entire controversy alone.
Absolute bedlam around here now. But Italy with a chance to come back, and Vieri! That is the miss of the World Cup. Christian Vieri is going to be haunted by this image.
I remember that game vividly. Upcoming, because every Sunday night we do a Yanks Abroad series where we cover U.S. men's national team players that playing overseas. But I'm also coming out with a video about our lovely Seattle Sounders and their fall from grace. There's going to be a lot of content on that picture, on that YouTube channel. If you guys are soccer fans out there, head over to YouTube and type in Stateside Footy 27 and smash the like and subscribe button and have some good time, man.
Was going to say, in my comments, almost 90% of it is, are you blind? This game was rigged. That whole point blank miss means nothing. You think that's easy to score? Or
no, that was a huge and what's interesting is Italy was one of the favorites heading into the 2002 World Cup.
They were statistically arguably better than 2006.
Yeah, they were loaded. And you can't tell me that miss was.
My problem is
because if Italy scores there, there's a good chance that South Korea doesn't equalize.
No, they're not going to. That was on stoppage time.
Yeah.
And had Vieri scored, the controversy wouldn't exist. They would have been like, whatever. Yeah. It was just a tough game, but whatever.
For sure. Yeah, like I can't say there was any bias. What was interesting though is the United States men's national team came into that 2002 World Cup with zero pressure because after their failure in 1998.
Oh, and here's a fly ball foul. Yeah, they came, victory against Portugal.
Yeah, they come out and they literally hit Portugal right in the mouth with a huge win. And you know what I'll say about that 2002 run to the quarterfinal was that their path was very easy after the group stages because in the knockout rounds they get Mexico, and it's like by that time the US had gained so much momentum against Mexico. You have Landon Donovan,
2-1,
absolutely bananas in that World Cup.
And also Mexico's expiration is usually the round of 16.
Yeah. Well, that's also the US's expiration as well too. So, it just so happens that we just got such a favorable draw getting Mexico. And that probably will never happen again.
What's crazy is Korea actually had the toughest path to the semifinals than any other team, except Germany. Germany had Paraguay and yes, the United States, although United States didn't go down easy. Then Turkey had Japan and Senegal.
Yeah.
United States, of course, Mexico. And Brazil had what? Belgium? And now here's a bunting effort by Victor Robles in the throw to first in time, but the good sacrifice by Victor Robles as Mitch Garver gets to second base.
And by the way, he actually could have went to second base and get the lead runner. That was a very doable out right there, but instead he chose to go to first base. But I'll tell you what though, it was the 2014 World Cup where the U.S. got out of a group with England, Ghana, and
no, it was Germany, Ghana, and Portugal.
There you go, Germany, Ghana, and Portugal.
That was supposed to be a tough group for them.
Yeah, well, it was the group of death, and we got out of it. And then our reward for getting out of that group was Belgium, and man, we were so close against Belgium. And Tim
Meanwhile,
Howard
Korea got embarrassed.
Tim Howard, had the game of his life. And I'll say this about Korea. The K League in itself, the Korean League, is doing a really good job. Is doing a very good job of developing young Korean soccer players. Tottenham just got Sun Min Hyuk. They got him from Gangwon.
Oh, and that hits J.P. Crawford, and now he's not happy with them having a little bit of an exchange. And I wonder how this is going to go. And J.P. is just having a chatter with Quinjada.
And I know that
honestly, though, if I'm JP, now the frustration is understandable because he's already dealt with injuries. But at this point, take the base. But yeah, he's not happy.
No, but you don't. JP, it's like, dude, I don't think that
it was intentional.
Yeah, Gihada was pitching at him intentionally, but the thing about South Korea is now you're starting to see young South Korean players move overseas. You're starting to see them in the Premier League. You're starting to see them in Germany now. And the movement started after 2002 when Park Ji-sung went to the Netherlands with Goose Hiddink. Then he got transferred over to Manchester United. So it's been that way since because of 2002. That was the impact. Yeah. And then of course you have Son
Heung-min. He's in Tottenham, arguably best players in the Premier League.
Yeah, of course, man. His left foot is deadly. It's like, South Korea does have talent, and what South Korea really needs is a manager who's also a technical director that is going to instill the youth, make sure that the youth development is kicking up to the first team. And South Korea can be a very, very, very dangerous team when it comes to international.
The talent pool they have, they should be hanging in there as any other mid-tier European team. They have the talent to do that easily.
I just think with the development right now with South Korea isn't as far along as where the United States is right now, but it doesn't mean that they're not going to be able to
pitch to Julio
to catch
and
up.
that is a strike. And
right now, South Korea South Korea should be winning the Asia Cup
regularly.
Yeah, regularly. They have so much talent,
and they somehow screw it up. And now
Queen's
Julio's working on an 0-1 so far, and this game is just getting intense. The pitch outside for a ball. Julio batting .260 with 13 home runs and 46 RBIs, and the Mariners are hoping
Julio.
That
there you go.
Salvage this.
Julio.
You tricked me.
Yeah. It's all good though.
Now here's the 1-1, and now here is a liner, and that's probably gonna be a double play ball. Throw to second, throw to first, and that is in time, and that just ends it really quickly. And we're going to the bottom of the 8th inning, where the Angels have a chance to take the lead. And I do expect them to. And I don't think JT Chargois should be pitching into this next inning.
Justin said they really need to come through here, or the season could literally be over. Like the season hinges on these last 2 innings, is what you're saying?
It could, because look at Houston. They went on a very hot streak. And I don't know if I don't know if there is a meltdown due for Houston, because they're just playing too well. Kikuchi's on fire.
True.
So maybe wild card's going to have to be the thing. But it's going to be heavily dependent on the other teams falling apart, which they have been so far. But who knows if that's going to be enough.
Right. I just, the way I look at this is that the priority should just be focusing on the series, focusing on the game, focusing on the series,
not what the Astros are doing. This is a game that's still easily winnable. So
we're playing the freaking Angels.
Playing the Angels. So,
but the thing is,
I'm
Angels.
Not about it.
I am.
Yeah, no, Dustin's right. They have no room for error. It's a very true point.
And the thing is, the frustrating thing too was I was calling for Scott Service to be fired for years, and even when I got my wish, it still felt too little, too late. Like if they did it in July, then maybe things could be different.
I'm just happy he's gone. Period. But I'll just say this though: when it comes to tonight's game, the reality is now this is on the bullpen, keeping the Angels right here at 4. And if this thing happens to go to extras, you like the fact that the Mariners are on the road. They have the first crack. They'll have the first cracks in extras. But
I did see that it's possible that the man who tagged at second base, his foot may have not even touched the base. So maybe Dan Wilson could have challenged that call.
Perhaps. But I like the idea that here's Collie
Colin
now.
Snyder.
Colin Snyder. So we're in a very advantageous position right now. So
just as long as the Mariners can hold up, they're going to have to do it against Taylor Ward. And now the pitch, and that is inside for a ball. He's 0 for 3 with a pop out in the 6th. And the collapse of Brian Wu was pretty bizarre. It's like almost like I can't really explain it.
Yeah. Well, you know what it is? It's, for a guy who is fastball dependent, and he's got great movement on his fastball. I keep saying that Brian Wu probably has the best fastball in this rotation just with his velocity and movement. But sometimes, man, if you're not locating it, you're going to get punished. And certainly that was the case tonight.
Punished.
Joe Adele twice, and then Mickey Moniak. Moniak to tie it up. But the thing that, that's yikes.
And we're looking at the 2-1.
Yikes. Ooh, they got him.
Pitch, no! Taylor Ward. Now here is a line drive, and that is going to be a base hit, and Taylor Ward is likely going to second base, and the throw to second, and it is not in time. It was bobbled by Dylan Moore.
Oh, dude, he was gunned down by a mile. I was like, ooh, I got to see this replay again at second base here.
While we're seeing the replay, do you call for an intentional walk in this situation? Because with a 4-4 tie, what else do you really got to lose?
Well, he didn't catch the ball in the transfer. Well, it all depends on who's up here.
Next man up is going to be Zach Neto, also a pretty solid player. 24 doubles this season.
Ooh.
Has the highest batting average on the team. I think I would do it. I would have done it. And now the pitch. Oh, and that nearly hit him, and that's going to get to third base. Unless there's a possibility of a foul ball.
The situation in Boston where you had Devers in extra innings, that was 100% that 100% was an intentional walk moment right there.
But now it doesn't really matter right now because now you have a runner on third base.
With Neto, I'd probably take my chances with Neto. But that being said, this is not a double play. This is not a double play opportunity, although when you walk him, it does become one. But that being said, though,
Dan Wilson trying to argue his case for a foul ball. Doesn't really matter.
Doesn't really matter.
What matters is Julio failed to convert that to convert with two men on. And Dylan Moore failed to transfer for that tag.
Well, now obviously the out is at the plate right now.
Makes you wonder what you can really do on this because it does seem inevitable that the Angels may just score.
This is not necessarily a good
pitch.
sign. Man, Colin Snyder has been so good for this team. So good this year, and now it's just. Yeah, there you go. That's a strike. He pulled the string on it, but for whatever reason, man. Yeah, he's not sharp tonight.
And the pitch, and a swing and a miss. That is strike one.
Yeah, but yeah, the Angels score here. Oh, they got him. They got him at the plate. Double play.
Oh, did they? And now here's the pitch. And here's a bunting effort, and they get a double play on that? That's a double play. Wow. Mariners just got life back.
How you like that, Dustin? Yeah, they're going
to.
That was one of the most
play that was.
Yeah, one of the more bizarre double plays. It was a 1-3 double play, a 1-2-3 double play.
That was
yeah, and it was because
that was
Lopez
almost Eric Burns-esque.
Lopez was at the plate watching the play at the plate instead of running down to first base. Had he actually took off, yeah, because it was literally a bunt right in front of the plate, and he just stood there watching it.
They got insane. I hate to say it, they got insanely lucky.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it was
and
a 1-2-3 double play.
Oh, and Neto got pinch hit. That's why Lopez was the guy.
Yeah.
Now here is Nolan Shanuel, one of the best players on the Angels so far.
Yeah,
he got great plate discipline, by the way. The pitch.
They got so incredibly lucky with that double play.
That was an absolute miracle.
Nolan Shanuel, by the way, was the rookie last year that was called up. Was drafted and called up in the same year.
Oh, a swing and a miss, strike two. And he actually had a pretty good start too.
I didn't like the idea of calling him up, but that being said, if he's ready, he's ready.
He played college ball most of his time. That's why.
Yeah, that was.
It's not like he was a kid from high school. But if it was a kid from high school, they wouldn't have done it. But college, you already have a few years in.
Yeah, but there was still a big risk of putting him in a situation that he couldn't handle. But credit to him.
Y'all better be hoping that you make the wild card because the division is locked up by my Astros. You know what? You're probably right.
Maybe.
I'm not the Mariner fan to argue with.
But then again, man, maybe not though.
And now here's a fly ball to center field, and Julio was there, and he makes the catch. And because of that inning like that, I gotta hit the bathroom. Here's an ad for you all. SoFi is an online bank and a personal financing company offering financial diverse products. They hold the naming rights to the home of the Los Angeles Rams and the Los Angeles Chargers, named SoFi Stadium. They offer amazing checking and savings accounts where you can get up to 4.6% on savings accounts. There are no monthly fees to maintain the accounts, and they have over 55,000 no-fee ATMs around the United States. You even have access to a budgeting program, stock trading, and insurance programs. Join SoFi and get $25 for joining and or $25 for opening a stock trading account. Links are available in the description. And thank you. And lastly, I am not a financial advisor, so either find a professional financial advisor or go with your own gut.
And we're back, folks. I'll say this, Cooper from Texas, my fellow, my friend from the great state of Texas.
Y'all,
do you know what the crazy thing about baseball? Anything can possibly happen, especially in a stretch drive. Because what happens if the Rangers get swept and the Mariners sweep a series, and all of a sudden we go from 4-1, and then I think we still have a 3-game series left with the Astros coming up. Stranger things have happened, man. Now I will say that the likelihood and the probability is that the Astros win the division. That's the probability. I mean, we coughed up a 10-game lead, so I can't sit here and try to flex on anything. But it's baseball, man. Stranger things have happened.
Cooper X, I gotta tell you, or Cooper Tex, I gotta tell you something. Couple things I got for you. One, I'm actually more likely to argue and trash talk with a Mariners fan than a Texas fan, and Steve is a witness to that. And also have a video for you proving that the Mariners are actually...
I'm just happy that he's not a Rangers fan. That'd just be the worst.
You prefer... Actually, Ranger fans are not that easy to get along with.
Dude,
Cooper, check out my video, because the video is titled "How the Mariners Got Yordan Alvarez to the Astros."
Yeah, forever. I have never, ever liked or respected the Texas Rangers.
The pitch, and that is a strike. What was the triggering point? Was it 96?
No. I just always thought they were,
They're just there.
No, yeah, it's one of that. But
and here's a liner caught by the second baseman, and that's going to be an out.
Even in the early 90s, even in the early 90s when, Nolan Ryan was still pitching. What's funny is Rangers fans always had that arrogance, like they were on the cusp of something beautiful. Even though in those days, like the Rangers were mid at best. It was like I just never understood the arrogance of Ranger fans. And then of course, the Rangers. The Rangers like in '96, won a division. They started winning divisions in the 90s, and I was just like, let's go Yankees. You know what I mean?
Oh, really?
I just refuse to
Juan Gonzalez, Will Clark, Ken Hill.
Yeah, like here's the thing though. This is the weird thing, is I was the biggest Will the Thrill guy. I loved Will Clark, and when Will went to the Texas Rangers, I actually rooted for Will Clark to do well.
Check out this Joyce guy. He has 103 mile an hour fastball. It's insane.
He's throwing gas, man. He's throwing gas. Yeah,
throwing his heart out. That's what he's doing. The 1-2.
Will Clark to do well.
105 mile an hour fastball. Who is this guy?
He's up there just throwing gas. 93. Yeah. I'm not a big fan of the Texas Rangers.
And now here's the 2-2. I'm just not a fan of the Mariners just sucking. That's all I care about.
There it is. Looks like Randy draws a walk here.
And now here is the 3-2 pitch. Oh, and that nearly got him. And that is something you wouldn't take for the team, because that would have drilled him and that could have taken out of the game.
That's the problem with dudes that throw gas like that. If you don't have control, these are the things.
It doesn't matter. You're gonna end up like opening day Charlie Sheen or Rick Vaughn from Major League.
Eliminator line to left.
A humiliator.
Yeah.
I call that the masturbator.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, it was the opener. It's like, eliminator line to left. Terminator. That had some real pus on it.
Now here's the the pitch.
He's running out of pitches with nicknames. Oh, there it is. Base hit.
Hold on. And we're looking at the 0-1. And here is the pitch. And now here's a ground ball, and that's going to get right through for a base hit, and a Rosarena is going to stay at second. If it was a little bit deeper, maybe he could have gone to third.
Talk about having a good game. Oh, here's the pinch hitter now.
I'm gonna guess it is. Well, we have a pinch hitter, don't we? Yeah. It's gonna be Josh Rojas, which I'm not looking forward to.
Drop a bunt, Josh.
Just drop the dang bunt and do it at the third baseline.
Well, that actually worked as a bunt.
And here's the pitch. And here's a ground ball, and that's pretty much going to be a sacrifice bunt at that point.
Yeah, pretty much. Although I forgot that we already had one out. Never mind.
And now up to the plate, it's going to be up to Jorge Polanco, who is now up to the plate.
You're absolutely right, Cooper. It was criminal.
The thing is, Cooper, like, I've had Astro fans that try to trash talk with me, and I'm like, bro, you're the wrong. I know we suck. You don't have to. You don't have to remind me. Like, I will say it with you. Like, it's like the Mariners give me nothing to trash talk with. That's the problem. And I have all these other fans going, yeah, you guys suck. We've won all these worlds. I'm like, yep, you're right. Yep. Because,
well, here's the thing.
Gave me nothing.
You picked the wrong fans to trash talk because, nearly 50 years of mismanagement and losing seasons have beat us down to the point where it's like, okay.
I mean, like, here's the thing. Whatever. When we cheer for a team like that, we're more likely to trash talk with Mariner fans than anyone else.
The only thing we have on Astros fans is the fact that you guys once cheated to win a World Series, and that's the only thing we have. And even then, it is what it is.
That's the excuse that Scott Service and Jerry Dipoto got for their failures in their first 3 years, that the Houston cheating was part of the whole, okay, you get a free pass.
Yeah.
And Mariner fans actually did take it to heart, saying, oh, yeah, Mariners didn't win 90 games or make the playoffs because Houston cheated. I'm like, bullshit.
Yeah. No, it's like, and the crazy thing is Major League Baseball did absolutely nothing. And AJ,
they did do nothing. Like, I was more offended by the handling of it than them actually doing it. Like, Manfred could he stripped down a fourth round pick. Ooh, a fourth round pick.
Yeah. No players were suspended. And then, AJ Hinch is the fall guy, and it's just like, whatever.
No,
and that's actually
should have been in there.
And when and that's the thing, it's like when that happened and Major League Baseball didn't, strip them of their World Series, or punish any players for being a part of it when they knew what happened. I mean, when Major League Baseball
the 1-1, that was a pitch to swing right there. But when it's a 103 mile an hour fastball, that's what makes it tough, because it happens quicker than a blink of an eye. Yeah. But we're looking at a 1-2 for Jorge.
Yeah. For sure, Dustin. For sure, dude. We're not complaining. I'm just saying that that was when I lost all respect for Rob Manfred.
And now we're looking at the 1-2 pitch for Jorge Polanco. And here's the pitch. And you would expect that'd be a strike 3, and Jorge Polanco gets out of that one, unfortunately. Still a tie ball game going into the bottom of the 9th inning. Cooper, Texas says, I don't know any Astro fans that trash talk the Mariners. No, we lost 2 straight first-round picks. There were several teams doing it. We were the scapegoats. As Chris Sale, you know what? There is truth to that. Red Sox were part of it. I heard even the 2001 Mariners had a part of it. So that's why I don't really mind the sign stealing. Like, you know what? If the Mariners did the sign stealing, I wouldn't care.
No, there's absolutely there's absolutely some truth in what he was saying. But that being said, there's an old saying in baseball: if you're not cheating, you're not trying. And for years, teams had way of spying for signs. As a matter of fact, the Red Sox used to have a guy in the Monster the guy that puts up the numbers in the they used to have a guy in the Monster with a pair of binoculars, and they were communicating back to the Red Sox dugout. So
I love what Dustin's saying. It's not an overstatement to say that the Mariners season literally hinges on this happening. I love it, man. I love your feeling of urgency. I really do. Because it is true that if Mariners lose today, they will basically be starting over from what it was last week with Dan Wilson being hired as a manager.
We're getting into September now, and it's like, 5 games is not exactly the hardest stretch to track down. But that being said, winning tonight would be very advantageous.
Very critical. And the other thing I'm curious about is if the Mariners win today, we'll get an opportunity to see how Dan Wilson handles the final game of a series. Because you know what Scott Service did when the Mariners won their first 2 games of a series and they won. Scott Service put out the most BS lineup possible to basically throw the game.
Yeah, I know he would punt, and generally he usually did it on getaway day. But I like this move with Andres Munoz in a tie game. It really sets them up for the top of the 10th. If the Mariners happen to score in the 10th, Mr. Munoz here would have a 2-inning save. I kind of like this.
Never heard of him, Cooper, Texas. And now here's the pitch to Rendon. And that is a strike.
Paul Gallant. I think he was on 710, maybe. Yeah. I didn't know he was. I thought he was still. I haven't listened to sports radio in Seattle in years.
Pitch.
So.
I mean, there's a reason for it because Seattle Sports Radio is basically the Mariners radio station. Basically, it really is.
Pretty much.
I mean, there's like really nobody that I particularly like on that team or in that radio station. And now here is the pitch. And now here's a fly ball to deep left field, and Julio makes the catch.
That's funny, Dustin. As soon as that ball left the bat, I looked down and I saw your comment.
Mike Salk, I used to like him, and then he just got weird. And I think there's a reason why when he moved to Boston for a job, there's a reason why he came back to Seattle, because I think Boston just couldn't handle him. Yeah, I think he just...
I remember when I listened to Brock and Salk, like in the early
Brock and Salk used to be good like a long time ago. That's when they were actually legit.
It was like the early 2010s when I listened to it, but I stopped listening to Seattle Sports Radio altogether, like right around
2013 was when 2012 was when I stopped.
It was like 2013, 14 in that area. It's all this. The problem with 950 KJR, it was like, dude, it was all just Huskies and Seahawks, even in non-football,
and sometimes Sonics on a random day.
Yeah,
and the pitch
when the Sonics were still in town. Yeah.
But I love Softy. Softy's a passionate guy, and there is no way Seattle Sports Radio would ever hire him because he's a non-filtering guy.
They would if he was available. They would, but he's never going to be available.
Salk is from Boston and arrogant about the Patriots, but he is funny. I don't like Salk at all anyway. I just don't. He used to be funny, and then he just stopped being funny.
He really just he really tries to get really deep with his takes. He tries to get very emotionally deep with his takes, and sometimes it's on the money, but sometimes it's.
There's also Bob Stelton, who unfortunately I think it's just there. Like he's literally just there.
Bob's a cool dude, man. We used to go to local MMA shows. In the Seattle area.
If you say,
yeah.
And the pitch.
Bob's a great dude, man.
Works with Dave Wyman, former Seahawk.
Yeah. Yep. Never met Dave Wyman.
Never me neither. The ones I've met Mike Salk. I have met Softy, obviously, several times. The 1-2. And now here's a fly ball to left field and foul. So many foul ball home runs today.
Yeah, Brock's such a great guy. Like if you can't find a reason to not like Brock, I don't know what's wrong. That you can't like. There's certain people that are just so nice that you can't help but like them, and that's Brock
the pitch.
Beard, man.
Now here's a ground ball foul. Dustin feels like Brock and Saw kind of ball washed the Mariners and the coaches, GMs, etc. They're not wrong.
100%. There it goes.
And we're looking at the 1-2.
It's over.
And here is the pitch. And that is just drilled to right field. And this baby is over. That was Moniak again. Mariners now trail. They're now 5 games back from Houston. Just absolutely speechless. Mariners blew a 4-1 lead.
Yeah.
Like, had it been like 4-4 the entire time, like if it was like 2-1 and then 3-3, whatever, fine. But the fact that they blew a 3-run lead.
Yeah, and you know what? And the interesting thing is that it wasn't a bullpen. It wasn't a bullpen gaffe, although you can say Andres Munoz, although going to Munoz in this situation was correct. But, you know, really what really did us in was, you know, right there at the tail end of Brian Woo's start.
Brian Woo had his issues. Like, he was certainly not the best, and neither was George Kirby yesterday.
It was weird. Like, in between the home runs, he was actually dealing there for a minute. It was the 2 home runs by Adele, the tying 2-run shot by Mickey Moniak, and you know, it was 3 pitches that got away from him. But outside of that, I know it's easy to say, but yeah, it really was the tail end. Leaving the fastballs up, that got crushing right there to Moniak.
And also the offense disappointed in the second half of the game. Like, they didn't score anything after the 4th inning. They were blanked.
Yeah. Absolutely right. I mean, this is, again, against an Angels pitching staff that, quite frankly, is not good.
And now,
that's disappointing, man.
But yeah, thanks for watching. I'm glad that I was able to still provide a service for you guys, though. Glad that I was able to draw a Houston fan, too.
Hey, Dustin, just to piggyback off what you're saying, I actually have been. I think the Mariners basically have been cooked since July, but you know,
they were cooked since a 10-game lead. Let's be real.
Well, the reality is like, you know, when you fire your manager, it's hard to turn around a tanker like that. It's going to take time, and where this offense was under Scott Service,
was even worse.
It was about as low as you possibly can get. And you know, Dan Wilson comes in, breathes new life, and you know, we're starting to see games where they do score 4 runs, 5 runs. Like the Mariners scored 4 runs tonight. You know,
they scored 4 runs tonight. You want to hear? Here's my reaction to it.
Where was this throughout the course of the season? Like you would see them lose 2 out of 3 in a series, 2 out of 3, and then that 3rd game they would break out with like 8 or 10 runs, and then you know you would see them score less than 2 runs for like a 6-game stretch. You know, like you could at least point to something and say, well, there is clear improvement. But that being said, it's like, you know, they buried themselves into a hole that, you know, they're probably not going to get out of.
Because everything was too little too late. Like, just like how I said, Sleepy, something it says interesting. I'm done with Dan. He had no idea what he was doing. Bad management of the game today. We lost because of the way he managed the game.
I don't know about that. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and, you know, praise Dan Wilson, right? Like, you know, that the thing about it is he's been in charge for like what, 6 games, 7 games? Is that really a large enough sample size for you to say that you're done with somebody?
Can't really say he's done. I mean,
yeah. Like, even at the end of this year, it's still good. Like, he's only had a month on the job. It's like, it's really hard to you know, it's really hard to say one way or another. But that being said, I mean, I understand the disappointment. We lost.
But regardless, how the season ends, and even with a playoff appearance, if Theo Epstein and Joe Madden are right there and available, they should still conduct the interview.
Even if it's just Theo Epstein. But I'll say
conduct
this,
that
though.
interview.
On one hand, it's weird because, yes, I would like to see the Mariners in the playoffs. Obviously, as a Mariner fan, playoffs are very important. But that being said, if we don't make the playoffs, and if that
Jerry's got to go,
that means that's the end of the Jerry Dipoto era. I would be equally as happy.
And also, I just put out a link. If you would like to join the show and express your thoughts, this is your opportunity to join. And it has happened before. We had Ian join in the show. We had Gamer11 join the show during that Dodgers massacre. But the only thing I'm waiting for right now is Dan Wilson and his post game. I want to know what he's saying.
Hey, Dustin, the problem with that is that concept does work because we've seen it in Seattle. From 2000 to 2003, this team was built around pitching and defense. And their offense necessarily wasn't power. It was contact and speed. And the Mariners had 4 straight years of 90 wins and damn near got to a World Series.
It's safe to say they were one home run bat short.
Yeah. In 2001. They were A-Rod short.
2002. They were A-Rod short, yeah.
Yeah, they were A-Rod short.
Had A-Rod been there, they would have won 2000. And 2002, I think they would have won 2002 if they had A-Rod on that team. Because all they would have had to play was...
Go ahead.
They would have played... So had they, let's say, won the wild card with A-Rod, they would have played the Yankees, and maybe they get that revenge. Then you play the Twins. Big deal.
Yeah. I'll just say this, though, right? The reason why Pat Gillick built the team around pitching and defense was because of T-Mobile Park, the way that T-Mobile Park plays.
And he knew how to do it well.
And he had a manager that knew how to play small ball, right? So the two worked hand in hand. They were very good together. They didn't get it done. But that being said, you can't build a team in T-Mobile for 81 games at T-Mobile Park built on slugging and home runs. It's not sustainable. To win in Seattle, you have to be able to do the small things to win a game. And the biggest problem with Jerry Dipoto's offense is he's willing to eat strikeouts. For the 3-run home run. But the problem with it is they're very far and few in between. And so in the meantime, you don't score enough runs. But as we've seen so far in the Dan Wilson era, we've gotten some clutch base hits, man. So I'm not going to sit here and gloss over this loss because
I am.
I can't. It was a bad loss. It really was. Being up 4-1, you're in the driver's seat, and it's the long ball that burned you tonight, right? So it is it's a bad loss. But that being said, it's hard to say that anybody has seen enough of Dan Wilson to say that he's not good enough. It's like, I want to see a full season first before I say something like that.
As I'm watching the Roots post game, just watching Brad Adam and Angie Mentic basically laughing half the time is concerning.
It's Roots Sports, whatever, man.
It bugs Softy all the time. Softy wants them to go off, but of course they're not going to.
No, of course not. They're Mariner employees. It's just this shit's on borrowed time. Yeah, no, I'm kind of there, right? I really do believe that Jerry Dipoto is wasting this window. And I'll add that to it, that if it happens and he does trade Logan Gilbert this offseason, it's over. The window's over. The whole thing was built around a core, and to be able to add to that core, and it's been literally the exact opposite. So, that's why I don't want Jerry Dipoto around, because I don't want him to touch this roster anymore. Like he's already sliced and cooked this roster from 2022. He took a playoff roster and then
he nuked it into a choker, into a late season choker team.
He's turned it into a flaming bag of dog shit. So yeah, I'm ready to
move on. And let's get the Theo Epstein. And I don't want another cheapo higher, because if it's a oh, here's Dan Wilson. Let's see what he says. Dan Wilson's praising how they fought till the end.
Fought to the end.
Basically, he's saying Scott Service ways, but with the charisma.
Well, what do you expect? What do you expect him to say? Of course, he's going to back up his players, man. They just got punked. I would love to have a refreshing manager saying, you know what, not good enough, man.
Playing some strange games like that here as well. It's just one of those things. It was a tough one tonight. It was a fight. A lot of our guys played very hard all the way through, and it's a tough one to swallow.
The decision that I probably didn't like using was, I mean, did we see anything wrong with putting in JT Chargois? Because he's been used quite a bit.
Well, again, so JT Chargois is the first out of the bullpen, but not in the 7th inning. You know what I mean? Like, he is like, if a pitcher runs out of pitches by if he goes 5 1/3, that's when you bring in JT Chargois, right? He's the first out of the pen when it's not in high leverage innings. He never should have came out of the bullpen tonight. It's the 7th inning, and
Colin Snyder had a very lucky inning.
Yeah, you either turn to Snyder, both, maybe even Jimmy Garcia.
Jimmy Garcia still hurt.
Oh, is he really? Okay, there you go. And I'll say this, man. So Cooper from Texas is saying it's probably hard to get good ears to sign there because they don't want their stats to be affected. And again, it has nothing to do with the ballpark. That is a narrative that has been debunked it's been debunked already, right? The reason why it's hard to get hitters to come here as free agents is because the Mariners do not pay. Under Jerry Dipoto, he will not sign a legit free agent bat because he doesn't want to give the years, and he doesn't. And his
choices aren't exactly ideal, because there was a time where he was looking at Chris Bryant. Like, he actually was looking at him, and had they signed him, they would have gotten the Chris Bryant that Colorado's dealing with.
Yeah, Chris Bryant in 2016, that would have been a huge get for the Mariners, but
they tried to get him in around 21.
Yeah, Chris Bryant, now is, you would have been dealing
gone.
You would have been dealing with a player that was injured a lot of the time.
Let's look at Chris Bryant's stats, and it was after 2021, so it would have been 22, and you would have dealt with a Chris Bryant who doesn't even finish half the season. But that's the choice that Jerry Dipoto was going to make.
Yeah, it's Dustin. It's like they have a warped view of valuable pitchers are versus position players. Yeah, they do. They look at WAR, they look at slugging, they look at WRC plus, and that's the thing. It's like but you also have to look at the mileage on a player, right? So when they get
Mitch Haniger back, he was already on mileage.
You get Mitch Haniger back, who's been dealing with injuries basically since 2022, and it's like you're looking at you have to look at the age. He's 33, so he's well past his prime. And you're bringing in shot fighters. Yeah, you're bringing in shot fighters, man. It's like Mitch Garver in 2018, 2019, 100%. 100%.
Jorge Polanco, even maybe just a couple of years earlier.
Yeah, dude. Jorge Polanco from 2018 all the way through 2021. Yeah, 100%. It's funny because Polanco's 31, but he's been in the league for 10 years already. It would be like the equivalent of trading for Felix Hernandez at 30, 31 after already racking up 200 innings plus for 10 years already. I just think when it comes down to it, it's the things that made Jerry Dipoto great in the early part of his Mariner tenure, building an offense, doesn't apply because the prospects he was trading, they weren't his. You know, it was no problem being Trader Jerry when you're dealing with Jack Zarinsek prospects.
Ketel Marte, Chris Taylor.
Yeah, it's like, you know, and he built some very good offenses from 2016 to 2019. He actually had some very fun offenses, but you know, now when it's his cap space and his prospects, he's gonna, you know, take the cheap way out, man.
Dustin says coulda, shoulda, woulda, but yeah, could have signed Chapman.
Yeah,
would have made up for that Suarez trade, and that Suarez trade, I think, is what this. I think we can review that the Suarez trade was what hurt the team the most out of all of them. Kelnick was one thing, and then who else? Letting go Teoscar was one thing. Then it was Kelnick, but it was like, okay, fine, but maybe Canzone will break out, which didn't happen. But then Suarez, I think, killed the momentum of this team because of him leaving. The good vibes only leadership is gone now.
Well, the weird thing is, it's like when you trade an everyday player like Suarez, who was an all-star at one point, who, you know, was
nearly a Gold Glover nominee.
Yeah, I mean, you know, who essentially played every single game last year. The idea is you want to replace him. You want to replace him with somebody that's better. And what he traded him for was the head scratcher, a backup catcher that they would end up DFAing anyway, and a bullpen
Carlos Vargas, who has problems in the minors.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like, what did you end up getting for him? But the idea was to replace him with somebody of equal value or even better. And his idea for the third base was, we're just going to platoon him with two guys.
Josh Rojas and Luis Urias.
You know, with a guy who was good 2 years ago, 3 years ago, who has been steadily declining from his best Milwaukee days, and Josh Rojas, who's he's not an everyday player. But when the season started and you weren't getting any production from Luis Urias, then you were stuck with Josh Rojas playing every day. Not an everyday player. And then at the trading deadline, this is what he was even more head scratching, is you lose JP Crawford and you need another infielder. There was a reason why I was talking about, getting Ahmed Rosario. Like, is he the greatest solution for shortstop? No, but he's a serviceable everyday player. And, it would cost you absolutely nothing. They needed to address third base at the deadline. They didn't do it.
First base, they pretty much didn't do it.
Yeah, right now, it would be beneficial for them to play Ryan Bliss at second base and move Polanco to third.
And the fact that they won't do that is head scratching because,
right?
And they could do it with the rosters expanding. They still can salvage doing that.
I would rather see Locklear getting time at first base, and I would actually bring up Cole Young to play short.
And Steven Lindbergh does make a point, like, why in the world would they call Urias? Do they not remember watching him play? Yeah, I mean, it's true. Like, we had clearly better options, like Cole Young, if he is any good.
They brought up Urias, well, number one, because it was a lefty on the hill today. And if there's one thing that Urias does well, it's hitting left-handers. Obviously, that didn't work out for him well tonight. But, it was because that they couldn't play Josh Rojas versus lefties. He can't hit him. So, they took a gamble, and it is what it is. But, the guy who built this roster and thought it was a good idea and would cut down in strikeouts needs to be fired, period. 100%. 100%. To me, that's the most embarrassing thing, right? Jerry Dipoto is pimping this roster in spring training, talking about it's the greatest roster he's ever assembled in his time with the Mariners, and how the strikeouts were going to be taken care of, and how this was going to be a high contact station to station type operation. And it literally just blew up in his face. And let's also remember that even with all their deficiencies, they racked up a 10-game lead in the division and then blew it. That's a fireable offense. That's 100% on very good teams that have a winning culture and have those type of expectations, that happens. GMs and coaches get fired. Period.
And it's amazing that he's had this job for 9 years.
The only thing that Dipoto has on ownership is that he makes them money. That's what he has on them. Mariners are incredibly profitable. He doesn't spend money. He sinks his resources in player development. That's it.
Do you think, man, well, going back, what do you think was the blame of this game? Like, I'm going to say, as much as, I mean, the offense gave 4 runs because usually when it's 4 runs, it's usually a guaranteed win with the way the starting pitching does. But then Brian Wu fell apart by giving up home runs to Joe Adell and Moniak. Yep. And when you do that, is solely on Brian Wu.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you had two Angels that had multi-homer games, and that was the difference, right? So there's two different ways you can look at this, right? You can blame it on Brian Wu, and he certainly deserves the
responsibility.
The criticism, the responsibility. But then the game is still tied 4-4, so you're still in this game, and now you're playing 4 extra innings because obviously you still at that point had 6 outs to put 1 run across the board. Couldn't do it, so you're playing for extra innings at that point. You bring in your closer in a tie game, and of course that sometimes doesn't work out. I mean, there's a long history of closers coming into a tie game and not being able to be successful. But that being said, then that onus is on Munoz. Okay. His job is to get the game to extras at that point, and you cannot, if you're going to throw a slider to a left-handed hitter, that slider has to be low and inside and basically in the dirt because you want that bat to be on top of to swing over the pitch. You cannot hang it right out over the middle of the plate to Mickey Moniak. So you can give Wu some blame for coughing up a 4-1 lead, or you can put it on Munoz. Because at that point, it's his responsibility to get to the 10th. So, yeah, it was a pitching issue tonight.
Pitching issue, and also the lack of clutch also happened after 4th inning. Nobody scores after that. Julio hitting into that double play, and Polanco with that strikeout.
Yeah, and you brought up Polanco, and Sleepy here in the chat room says pinch hitting Polanco for more was a bad call, and of course this is the matchups conversation, right? So you have a righty on the hill. They wanted to bring Polanco in. I guess Polanco's been playing well, but in a pitch hitting situation, you probably want to stay with the guy that actually was putting the ball in play today, and that was Dylan Moore. I happen to agree with Sleepy on this one. There's times when the matchups matter, and then there's times where you kind of have to stop overthinking this. And, Dylan Moore today actually had a pretty solid day, and you need a base hit in that situation. And, I think righty versus righty, Dylan might be able to handle that.
Let's take a look at Dylan Moore's numbers and see if he would have. But even then, it doesn't really matter, in my opinion, because if it wasn't broken, don't fix it. And it should be about hot hands sometimes, but hot hand things don't really exist in baseball anymore. And against righties, he's a 191. Yeah. But the differential is 191 versus 213. OBP is about 20 points. But even then, they still maybe should have rolled the dice on that. I didn't think about it too much. I didn't really think about that. I mean, I was already thinking about Julio hitting into that double play when he was already having a good day. So
yeah, yep. I mean, there was multiple examples of this team coming up short. And I'm not going to be the root sports guy. It was a loss, right? You can't take positives out of it. It's a loss.
And that's what Root Sports literally tries to do. Though they say, well, at least Brian Wu did pretty good in his first 4 innings, or well, at least Justin Turner hit 2 homers. No, I mean, honestly, I forgot about all of that.
What makes it worse is you had a dude that hit 2 home runs tonight, right? And that did not, you weren't able to pick him up on that one. Justin says here the problem isn't these pitchers. The problem is they're hitting 215, which is the worst since like 1918, the worst strikeout rate since the 1800s. And what's funny is we always say that the 2010 Mariner offense was the worst in modern history as far as runs scored. This offense might be worse.
You think so? Let's compare the numbers. Let's do that. Let's bring up those numbers. And Steve, how much do you have left on the tank? Because I know it's like midnight for you.
Yeah, it's 12:40. Let's keep rolling. Would y'all trade Wu for Tucker in the offseason? 100%. I'd love to have Kyle Tucker in this offense.
Yeah, because Brian Wu
not hurt right now, is he?
He is hurt, but there's talks of him maybe coming back for the end of the season. Now let's do this. I'm going to write this all down, of course.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of runs scored, Mariners are surprisingly 26th in runs at this point at 542 in 136 games. Now, their batting average. Now, I don't even think we should count home runs because it doesn't really matter. They're batting 216, which is the 30th, which is the worst. 216. And now strikeouts. Most strikeouts.
In 2010, the Mariners collectively as a team batted 236 with a 298 OBP, slugged 339 with an OPS of 637. And I think their OPS plus that year was 79. And let's see, runs. So runs, they scored 513 runs. Against, let's see, runs against 628 given up, earned runs given up.
So this team is still it's still better. Yeah. But it's not saying much at all. Okay, how about the strikeouts?
The Mariners that year struck out a collective 1,184.
Wow. So this strikeout is even worse.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, they might be like the 2010 the team might have had a better batting average, but when it comes to OBP, slugging, OPS, like I'd be curious to see what our collective OPS is right now. And then runs scored versus, like, I bet you the differential is pretty close.
They had a 304 OBP, 364 slug, and a 668 OPS.
Okay.
So they're actually pretty close, but 2010 Mariners offense is still the worst. But in terms of value and efficiency, they're about the same.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. And, that's the thing. It's like when we talk about fireable offenses, once you start getting to that, you start entering 2010. Like, the Mariners this year are hitting 216 with a 303 OBP, so it's a little bit better. A 364 slug, same area, 667 OPS, and you're still in the same territory. They've scored, let's see, so far they've scored 538 runs, and they've given up 465 earned. So they still have a pretty glaring, run differential.
Josh says Tucker may be back. Now here's an interesting. Do you sign Bregman or Tucker? I mean, why not both at this point?
If you can get both, get them both. But Tucker.
And Tucker, I think, is a free agent after this season anyway.
Yeah.
So Astros will have a very interesting offseason, whether they would.
I would love Kyle Tucker's left-handed bat with that right field porch at T-Mobile Park.
That would work. And the other thing I want to stress about is the other reason why Mariners window is closing severely, other than George Kirby, Logan Gilbert, Cal Raleigh, blah, 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 blah. Houston, now maybe they fall off if those players are gone. Maybe. But the thing is, Texas had a down year. you assume that they're going to rebound from this. Everyone's going to be healthy next year, maybe. Oakland will maybe be more competitive because they have been due to... They may be more competitive due to the fact that their young players are developing. And also, yeah, the young players are developing, playing in a different market, so maybe the vibes can change. And also, the Angels, yes, they're bad, but they have young, promising players, at least in their farm system. So there's reasons why it's closing.
Yeah, well, Dustin, like when you have back-to-back 90-win seasons at the beginning of your window, it does signal that your championship window is open. The thing with the Mariners was that you had to augment this offense in a right way, and in 2022 they did. I mean, even though Jesse Winker was a pile, Suarez, essentially basically had an all-star year. Julio, after a slow start, became an MVP candidate, and it just seemed like everything was working right. Everything that ended up working right in the second half, and that was the key after 2022 is carrying that momentum over, and that was something that was lost. And of course, when Jerry didn't do anything to make the team better in certain key positions, it stagnated. And that's what 2023 was. That's what 2024 was. But you know what my biggest problem is, though, is that there is such a risk by trading starting pitching, because the Mariners don't have another starting pitcher in their pipeline that's ready to be called up right now.
Yeah, we're talking years away, at least 3 or 4 at best.
If you trade Logan Gilbert, you don't have anybody to replace it, which means that the Mariners have to be active on the free agent market.
Blake Snell.
And by the way, they did one time go out and get Robbie Ray. So it's not like the Mariners aren't inclined, but the reality is, with the way that this is going to work out, like, I have a sneaking suspicion that Jerry's going to play the same thing that he did last offseason by getting rid of players in order to bring in new players, right? So it's going to be selling to buy, and there's a real good possibility that, yeah, maybe he brings in a couple impact bats at the substitution of a pitching staff, and because he's reluctant to hand out large deals, there's a good chance that this might be 2019 again, where you actually have a capable offense, but you're not able to pitch. And again, he's not going to trade his prospects. So the idea that can be corrected at the deadline, it's a moot point. So that's one of the biggest issues I have with Jerry Dipoto, is that this thing could actually get worse. And if you're starting to trade off, Logan Gilbert, then you probably should just blow it up. You know what I mean? At this point, you should probably just blow it up.
And that's a blow up that I cannot accept, because the last time they blew it up, I was okay with it because Cruz was getting old. Cano was already on suspension baggage. Seager was getting up there.
It made sense.
Mitch already had injury problems, and they couldn't even break 90 wins with that core. So it was like, what was the point of riding it for 2019? There was really no point, especially when Houston was too hot. Oakland was too hot. Angels were at least hanging in there, at least formidably. There was I was okay throwing away a season, and amazingly, they didn't have to wait that long on the rebuild. It was even 2020. In 2020, they still almost made the playoffs. In 2020, with the expanded playoff, they still almost made it.
Yeah, I mean, it literally took them 1 year of a down
blow it up
of a down season to have a 90-win season in 2021. But that's the thing. It's like, okay, cool, you're gonna blow it up, and you trade JP. The only people that you keep are maybe Julio and Cal Raleigh and everybody else. And so now all of a sudden you start start from scratch. So next year, your starting lineup is some of your high prospects mixed in with veteran free agents on 1-year deals. You know what I mean? At that point, there's such a risk by trading one of our pitchers at this point, especially controllable pitchers. All right, you and I were talking about Luis Castillo. Like if any pitcher goes, it's Castillo, because as you said, Blake Snell's a free agent, so it's not like you can't replace Luis.
Can't replace Luis Castillo. Yeah.
I mean, the same could be said with Logan Gilbert. That being said, I mean, if this is a money issue, he's still, even in arbitration, he's still going to be cheaper. And it just, at this point, I actually think it makes sense to trade Luis Castillo at this point. I just think that at the end of the day, there's a big reason why I don't want Jerry Dipoto to touch this roster,
because he will find a way to nuke it, and
well,
somehow, some way,
the likelihood of this roster getting worse that's a higher percentage with Jerry Dipoto than it gets better. You know what I mean? Like after two off seasons of seeing a downward progression. When you had you had Carlos Santana as your DH in 2022,
and you let him go,
and then you replace him with
Tommy La Stella.
You replace him with Tommy La Stella,
Cooper Hummel,
and AJ Pollock. Like that was your answer to losing Mitch Haniger. And
Carlos Santana.
You trade a fairly decent bullpen piece for a guy who is not a focal point bat in a lineup. It's not like you traded for Vlad Jr. You traded for the guy that needs
Oscar, who needs absolute protection.
Who needs absolute protection, and of course, it wasn't bad, but it also wasn't great. And then you elect not to bring him back, but then you trade your third baseman, who's having a better year this year than he did last year. It very well could have been just a down year for Suarez.
And Ryan Divish really tried to excuse that trade by going, well, Suarez was kind of out of shape. I mean, but
right, but he's an athlete; he can get back into shape. But my problem was, who did you trade him for? Nothing. And what did you do to replace his production in the lineup? Nothing. So it's progressively gotten worse over the last 2 years. Your solution are two washed bats who are 33 and have injury issues. And then you trade Robbie Ray for a
broken Haniger.
For a broken Haniger and a pitcher who probably could have helped you out. But then you flip him with a prospect to bring in a guy who, Polanco, who has also got injury issues. And what happened? He got hurt this year, and it kind of derailed his season. And it's, and that's the thing. It's like, you can't justify keeping Dipoto around. I mean, you made the hard decision by, firing Scott Service. Great. But, again, that's only 50% of the equation. Like this window is open for 3 more years, because that's when Cal, Logan,
George
come up at free agency.
Don't forget Munoz. Munoz could also be in the picture too.
Right. So it's like you have only just a finite amount of time to get this right. And I don't want to waste it. And if you're not going to replace Jerry, and you're not going to go out and make significant upgrades to this lineup, and by doing it, you have to trade one of these guys. It's like, it's going to get worse. So I'd rather just see him blow it up, because I already know how this progression is going to go. The Mariners are farther, the Mariners right now are stuck spinning their wheels as a fringe playoff contender. Like that's what they are. And they're no close to the playoffs now. I know they're 5 games out, but they're no close to the playoffs now than they were at this time last year.
Last time they were possibly in the lead. Actually, let's check on that and see where exactly this team was.
September 1st of last year, they had just gotten in first place before they collapsed.
I think that's when they were playing Oakland. And then that's when they were going to the Mets.
Yeah, Steven Lindbergh says Dakota will completely destroy this roster. You are right about that. Good point. Yeah, you can't there's no trust in them.
Not at all.
They also have Brown, Arrighetti, Javier, and Garcia for the next 6 years. Yeah.
So I guess Houston still have contention window within them because they know. I mean, they've built a fantastic farm system. You gotta give it to them. So I would expect that this year, I'm gonna say it, 2024 was the best absolute season to even sniff the playoffs because Texas having a down year, Angels are the Angels, Oakland is Oakland, and Houston took a while to finally get it going. And now next year, you're going to be dealing with Houston possibly reloading because they got the money to do it. Actually, it's not like that they have the money. They will spend the money. Texas will come back. Oakland will at least be annoying. Angels might take a little bit step. I'm not saying they'll take it like a step ahead, but at least they'll be more extra annoying than they were. Because at least last year, Angels were a guaranteed win almost, along with Oakland. But now, next year, and even this year and going into next year, Oakland and Angels are not going to be guaranteed wins anymore. They already weren't this year.
No, of course it's not a window. Is that really if they finish under 500? No, it's another disappointing year and another lost year.
It's a disappointing year if they somehow find a way to get 90 wins and still miss the playoffs. That's still disappointing.
Well, I'll say this: I love what Houston does, right? Because you have a guy in George Springer, and instead of extending him, they just let him walk in free agency because they have that next guy ready to step up. They let Carlos Correa go, and then it's the next guy up. Houston is not afraid to let guys go because they already have that next guy ready to come up. But then when they need firepower, they go out and trade for a Justin Verlander. You know what I mean? They go out and spend the money when it's necessary. Like what the Rangers and the Astros do, player development is very, very, very big because it's like the cornerstone of their franchise. But in order to supplement the roster, they understand that there's going to be a certain amount of money that they're going to have to spend, and they spend it. There's a reason why the Astros have been to 7 straight LCSs because they understand how roster building works in the modern day. There's a reason why Tampa Bay doesn't win championships. Like you can have all the player development you want, you can call up all the good young players you want, but there's also a ceiling to that. You can have very good years. Tampa Bay's had very good years, and the Mariners well, see, Tampa Bay can do it, and why can't we do it? And it's like, well, yeah, but what has Tampa Bay won really?
They've won nothing.
That's exactly right. And the thing about it is, it's like what Texas did to get to the World Series last year. They had a couple bad years, 90 lost seasons as they were bringing in a young core. But yet when it got to that point where they said, okay, cool, we have this young core in place. Where's our deficiencies? Okay, we're going to go throw money at those because we don't have a prospect ready to step in. But we also need competent, good baseball players to come in and lead this team. So they got Marcus Semien, they got Corey Seager,
Jacob deGrom, even though he's hurt, but they still tried.
But yeah, that's the thing. It's like they're not you also have to spend money, and you can't be afraid to spend money. I still believe that the Mariners won't spend money because of what happened with Robbie Cano and how it ended with egg on their face, right? So, They tried to go spend big with Robbie Cano, but it worked out very well with Nelson Cruz, right?
I still think the Cano trade, or not the Cano trade, Cano signing, I would still do it every day I could. The problem was with after Cano and Cruz, they did nothing after that. Like Jerry, for some reason, could not put together a starting rotation. Bullpen was iffy at best, with the exception of Edwin Diaz, but they didn't do anything else after that.
Do you know why I wouldn't do that? Because Cano's a second baseman. Like they gave $240 million to a second baseman. That's insane. Like you could have still made a very competitive offer of like 150. And chances are that would have been good enough, because I don't think he would have gotten that on the open market anyway. But like, Home Dude went well above and over the top to get a dude like Robbie Cano. And he's like, and again, he's a second baseman, right? You would do that for a first baseman. You might even do that for a Juan Soto, right? A power hitting corner outfielder. But, you know, it's like, dude, it was a second baseman. But that being said, though, it didn't work out well. You only got, like in the 5 years that he was here, you got 2 really good years, 1 pretty solid year, and that was about it. Like you didn't even get bang for your buck in all 5 seasons that he was here. And when the PED thing came in, it left the Mariners with egg on their face. And I still think that they're gun shy to hand out those type of contracts because they're afraid. And we also know that those type of contracts usually don't age well anyway, right? So, but that being said, one of the Mariners' biggest bugaboos is that they, by the way, and I still believe this because the Mariners are a wealthy team, an incredibly wealthy team. And if they wanted to spend dollar for dollar with the Dodgers, they could. They just choose not to. But they have to spend something. And it can't be AJ Pollock on a 1-year, $8 million deal or a Mitch Garver on a 2-year, $24 million deal. You know what I mean? Like those are the type of signings that you signal that, you know, you were just that one little piece away from contending for a World Series when that was not like, even though coming into this year, we knew damn well that we were multiple good pieces away. And we couldn't, like, you saw what Matt Chapman signed for with the Giants, and you saw what Cody Bellinger signed with the Cubs. Very doable contracts.
Undervalued too.
Yeah, very doable contracts for the Seattle Mariners. And if that means you had to pay him an extra $5 million a year,
so
you kind of do. You still kind of do that. And with the roster that's in place, it actually is an attractive roster to come to because you have good pitching. And Matt Chapman probably would have came, and Cody Bellinger probably would have came.
Man. Cody Bellinger would have only signed a 1 year, and in hindsight, maybe they should have signed Cody Bellinger instead of trading for Teoscar, because the problem I had with trading for Teoscar was it costed Eric Swanson, who was easily one of the 2 or top 3 best pitchers in the bullpen. And what's more mind-boggling, the Mariners still didn't make a trade for him, and they could have gotten him for peanuts.
Yeah. I just think that Jerry Dipoto is, whether it's ego or whether it's stubbornness.
It's ego. It's both. He is egotistical.
He slowly destroyed this team to a point where, dude, it's going to get worse before it gets better. And if, the weird thing is it makes no sense. And I always get back to this whole Logan Gilbert thing. It makes absolutely no sense because even in arbitration, he's still going to be cheaper than Castillo. And if you have to go to the open market to get the lefty for the Giants, Seattle kid,
Michael Conforto.
No, the pitcher, the lefty pitcher from
Blake
Seattle.
Snell.
Blake Snell. If you have to go get a Blake Snell on the open market, he's still going to command a $20 million salary a year. You know what I mean? Like if he comes here, you're still paying him $20+ million a year to be here. So even if it's on a 2-year deal, right? So what's the point of trading Logan Gilbert because you think he's going to be expensive in arbitration, and then you have to go replace him with a dude who's going to be expensive?
Which is why Castillo would be the most to move.
You're doing it because you're mad he didn't extend. What does that tell Cal Raleigh, or what does that tell George Kirby? They're on their way out of town, man.
I think George Kirby's gonna be the first one, because one of the things we saw was he actually liked a random Mariners fan post saying ownership is cheap, and he liked it, and it was on record. Crawford liked it too.
Yeah, so
not that Crawford really matters.
Steven Lindbergh says Dipoto just wants to win in a way he can claim it is all because of his brilliance, not because of anyone but him. It's like he's trying to reinvent how to win baseball games. Yeah,
which he is. Like when I remember in 2022, a few of the things he said that really got me after the 2022 season. Couple things he said.
Look at Jules is funny. Why did we re-sign Robles for 2 years and $9 million after 3 weeks? That's a good point.
That's a great point.
I don't know. But my thing is, why would Robles do that now?
Robles should have. Yeah, maybe he should have waited for the open market.
That's because if if he actually finishes strong, there are plenty of better teams to get that exact same.
Unless there's like an opt-out clause.
But why would the Mariners give him 2 years? Why wouldn't you just extend him for another year? Just sign that 1 year extension. Why hold yourself to 2 years for a guy who has been DFA'd a couple times already?
Going back to Dipoto, a couple of things he said was, quote, "We have spent our money after the 2022 offseason." Well, that's when they were talking about like Pollock and getting Teoscar. And then the other one was, we're just spending our money differently. Basically, he did a good job covering up things. And now it's like we're not stupid, so we're not going to fall for it again.
The problem is our pitching can't mask Jerry Dipoto's deficiencies. We don't have that type of talent. Like, our pitching is good, but it's not great. I mean, it's not like Hall of Fame great, right? Our pitching can't mask there's 50% to a baseball game, and we do half of that equation very well, but what we can't do is consistently hit the ball. That can't be, those deficiencies can't be masked. And that's the thing. It's like, I'll give him credit for building a farm system that he can do.
He does deserve that. He does get the credit because he did find, I think he did find Julio Rodriguez. He found Cal Raleigh.
Sure.
He found Rookie of the Year Kyle Lewis. Gotta give him that too. I really did wish that Kyle Lewis did work out, though. I really wish it worked out, because we could have had Kyle Lewis, Kelnick, and Julio in one team, and if they were like, even if you just had Kyle Lewis, 2020 Kyle Lewis, and somewhat of a half-assed decent Jared Kelnick and Julio together, we'll still take that outfield than what we have now easily. I mean, we're
100%.
I just want to go to a random question by Josh, because I don't want to miss the question. Do we think the White Sox are going to break the 62 record Mets for losses? It's very possible. Right now, they are at 31 wins so far, and the Mets,
100%.
shocking. Actually, let's take a look at the Mets record up until, what was it, game 136?
62. What was it? 62 wins.
Yeah, 62. They were at 34 and 102 after 136. So actually, the White Sox are very much in pace to break that record.
So, and the White Sox have how many wins now?
31.
31. So they need to win another 32 just to get over the 62 win threshold. They're not going to do it.
But the Mets were actually 40, and the Mets only had 40 wins in that 62 season. So the White Sox are in pace. And the most tragic thing about that 62 Mets team, it was coached by World Series manager winner many times, Casey Stengel of the 50s Yankees.
Yeah, but you know what's funny? And that happened in what year? When did the Mets break that, set that record?
1962 in the good old Polo Grounds.
Yeah. 62, 7 years later, they won the World Series.
With a 19-year-old Nolan Ryan, basically.
Yeah. Yep, the Amazons.
And Tom Seaver and a black cat passing by.
Oh, and by the way, that 62 Mets team had an aging Willie Mays on that roster.
Oh, jeez. No, 62 was 62. Willie Mays was actually on the Giants in 62.
When did he come to the Mets? I thought he was a part of that.
No, he was with the Giants at San Francisco. Willie Mays was a little bit later.
Let's find out. Oh yeah, he didn't come to until 72. You're right.
Willie Mays did win a World Series with the Giants with that amazing catch against the Indians.
Yeah, the Polo Grounds, by the way, was the goofiest. It was literally the goofiest ballpark, but it was also one of the greatest ballparks, right? Because you literally could hit a routine fly ball into either right or left center field gap, and
it's a home run.
Oh yeah, you would roll all the way to the back fences, and yeah, dude, it was an inside the park dinger. But it was also like literally 212 down the lines, like routine fly balls would fly out in the Polo Grounds.
You know, if the Mariners played in Polo Grounds, they would still screw that up. I have a feeling they would find a way to screw it up at Polo Grounds.
But what's funny though is that when the Dodgers moved to LA, they played 2 seasons at the LA Coliseum.
They did 90,000 seats.
Yeah. But what was interesting is down the left field line was not even 200 feet from home plate. It was like 198 to left field. And then they had a makeshift fence, right, from center field that came around. And it was, it was weird. It was like 315 to right field and like 420 to dead center. But it was like, a $198 to the left field wall. Crazy dimensions.
You won't see dimensions like that ever again.
No. Really curious what long-term Cal Raleigh versus Yainer Diaz looks like. That's a really good.
Yeah,
he is 115 for 6 years. He said he will repeat that after. I don't think Cal resigns in Seattle.
Same. The only one we'll maybe get is Logan Gilbert. George Kirby's pretty much gone at this point.
Well, I think that the Mariners tried to offer him an extension this last offseason. He turned it down.
Well, Scott Boras client, right?
No, not Logan.
George Kirby. Cal Raleigh.
Cal Raleigh's the
Scott Boras client. I think George Kirby is too.
Well, when that Marine Layer podcast came out, Divish did say that the Mariners tried to extend Logan this last offseason, and he turned it down. And I'm wondering whether or not the Mariners lowballed him.
They probably did.
Tried to getting a team-friendly
deal.
Yeah. I don't see Cal signing long-term. And I don't see George re-signing long-term either.
Which is why, it's critical that the Mariners even.
Why do you think it's important to win in this window, or at least make an attempt at winning in this window? Because
of what they built and what we all went through.
I can see Munoz re-signing. I can see them even re-upping Matt Brash at some point. But
Matt Brash will be undervalued because of his injury.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like if you're going to trade Logan Gilbert, then you might as well just trade George Kirby. Because you might
as well just blow the whole thing up. Unfortunately,
you have Miller and Wu, and you have Castillo, right? So it's not out of the realm of possibility that in those 2 trades you'll probably end up getting a high prospect starting pitcher in the return. Maybe they go out and sign one to round out the rotation. But if that's the reality where it's like, okay, these guys don't want to re-up. Maybe you sell high right now. But I don't trust Jerry Dipoto.
No,
because you know what the type of deals he's going to make. They're all going to be young, club controlled, multi-positional, guys who can play multiple positions and guys who will ultimately, fail.
I guess a fun scenario game that Josh has given us. Also a great Houston fan himself. So Rooftop, if you had a choice, would you take the 2,116 win season or give yourself more playoff chances or Ichiro to start when he originally wanted to? I'll take, I'm willing to give up the 26 I'm willing to give up the 2001 season out of those three options for sure.
So what are the options now? So it's either you take the 116 win season,
again,
or give yourself more playoff chances, or Ichiro starts when he originally wanted to.
That's a tough one between those two. Ichiro, and now we're talking about Ichiro with Ken Griffey Jr. and Jay Buhner in their primes.
Yeah.
So let's say Ichiro starts in like 97 or 98 or 96.
Yeah.
Or just multiple playoff chances.
So you're talking Ichiro at the age of like 19, 20 with Ken Griffey Jr. and A-Rod and Jay Buhner and Edgar.
But that bullpen would still screw it up.
I would probably take Ichiro because at that point in time we had four Hall of Famers playing together together in their prime, and now you're adding Ichiro to that. Imagine Ichiro leading off with A-Rod hitting second, Junior third, Edgar fourth.
Don't even get me started. And Ichiro in the Kingdom would have hit 20 home runs at least once in that season.
The question is, can I have that with Pat Gillick as my GM?
Or is it still Woody Woodward?
Yeah, because you would still figure that Pat Gillick would know how to build a bullpen around that.
A part of me also thinks that Mariners' cheapness is also partially the reason why the Mariners didn't get Ichiro earlier, because they could have negotiated with the Ortiz Blue Waves and say, hey, we'll just...
Yeah.
Like, if it was any other ownership, they would have been like, oh, yes, we'll buy out his contract with interest or whatever, just to have Ichiro and Griffey and A-Rod and Edgar playing together. You cannot pass up that opportunity. Now, to be fair, Mariners did bring him in 1999 in the spring training, but Ichiro had a bad stomach bug, so he was gone after 2 games.
You knew that they knew about him in the 90s just because of Japanese ownership, right?
They did.
In the high connection, because the Mariners back in the 90s were trying to bring in Japanese players as early as like
1997 with Shigetoshi Hasagawa, or even earlier it was Max Suzuki in 96.
Yeah, they were looking to bring in Japanese players as early as 94. And I was told that the Mariners bid on Hideo Nomo. They did bid on him,
but they failed.
Can you imagine?
Dodgers.
I mean, getting rookie Hideo Nomo, because he was
Randy
good for,
Johnson.
Like he was good for like 2 years before the league caught up to him.
And his really weird windup was just.
It would have been cool. It would have been cool if we ended up with Daisuke Matsusaka for a little bit. That would have been cool.
You know, the other reason why maybe Jerry Dipoto should be gone is because he really goofed up on that whole Shohei Ohtani free agency of 2018. Yeah. No one talks about how much he really choked on that. And he was like all big talk about it. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to get Ohtani. Nope. Yeah, even with each on your back.
What's funny is Seattle has a very, very large and very solid Japanese population in Seattle. And what's funny is I heard that the Mariners rolled out the red carpet for Shohei Ohtani when he first came over. And of course, Ichiro was there, and Ichiro was that go-between between the Mariners and Shohei. And of course, Ichiro was pimping him out late, teed Ohtani up, and then the Mariners do what the Mariners do, and then tried to lowball him. And
that's what they did. And yet, Mariner fans booed him when Ohtani came up to the plate for the first time. I was like, wait, why are we blaming Ohtani? It was literally the Mariners that goofed it up themselves.
But then you have a second crack at Ohtani. You had a second crack at Ohtani, and you're not going to
even make an attempt.
You're not going to even make an attempt. And it's like, dude, you easily could have structured that type of deal to get Ohtani. Now, maybe Ohtani says, listen, man, I want a 10-year deal, and I'll take half of it at a normal structure, and then I'll defer the second half of it. You still do it like that.
$2 million a year. and a contract with no interest, and that what was it like $20 million a year in 2030s, and by then they'll be getting $50 million.
If you're telling me that Ohtani would willing to defer the second half of the contract, right? So it's like, yeah, you're going to be paying him like $30 million a year for like the first 4 or 5 years, but
with no interest.
With no interest, but then the next 5 years of the deal will be like at $2 million because you're going to defer it all the way out. You know what I mean? So it's actually team friendly in the portion of the contract that's actually going to be the worst. And you can just spread that shit out for like 20 years. So
that's why they were able to get Teoscar Hernandez.
Yeah. And it's
they didn't crack at anyone. Not Josh Hader, not Blake Snell, not Shohei Ohtani.
Imagine Shohei Ohtani or Juan Soto in this lineup.
Imagine if the Mariners didn't trade Paul Sewald. Yeah. They probably win the 2023 World Series, very likely, because of what happened throughout that playoffs.
Well, they don't collapse as big as they do in September of last year because there were at least 5 games that the Mariners bullpen blew in September because they didn't have Paul Sewald. Off the top of my head, there's like 5 games that the bullpen blew in September that you probably don't with Paul Sewald. And I think the Mariners missed out the playoffs by like a full game last year.
One freaking game. And especially
so maybe they don't collapse as bad as they collapsed last year. And who knows, maybe they get in. But trading your best reliever
should have been a fireable offense.
And in a season where they themselves set the expectation of a World Series by those hype videos in the Mariner clubhouse on the whiteboard that says World Series 2023. So you're setting the expectation and it doesn't work out. And you have a second half team and yet you trade instead of trading away prospects to get better, you trade away your best reliever and wave the white flag. And then they get hot, but then they collapse because they don't have a closer.
A bullpen.
Yeah. Yeah. And by the way, Canzone is, it's funny is I laugh when fans talk about Canzone, about how he's going to be this whatever because he has a 500 slugging on a certain pitch. It's like, yeah, maybe like when he gets his pitch. But what does he do when he does not get his pitch? Strikes out. So yeah. All right, man. Well, I gotta call it a night tonight. It's already 1:30. So
I'm gonna call it a night too. And everyone, thanks for being on this show. And painfully speaking, go Mariners.
Goku.